You are listening to Wolf on Swan Lake, written by D.N. Leo, narrated by Jessica Lee. Grace Sterling doesn't do elegant. She's a black swan warrior hiding in a frozen cabin because her ballet family wants graceful, and she's built for battle. The last thing she needs? Rescuing a drowning billionaire and his kid? Ash Thornwood buried his heart with his wife 2 years ago. His wolf went silent. He became a ghost. Then Grace crashed into his life, literally, and his wolf roared back to life with one word: mine. Problem: he's still grieving. She's still hiding. Mercenaries want them dead. One collision, one rescue, one impossible bond, and a penguin with opinions. Sometimes the wrong swan is exactly the right one. This is an original story, written exclusively for the audience of this channel. To support this channel, please like, share, and comment below. Your engagement helps keep these warm-hearted shifter romances with lots of heart and laughter coming. Want your story idea featured next? Comment below. Leo reads every comment you write. Also, as requested by many of you, yes, there is an exclusive bonus chapter featuring Grace and Ash's honeymoon and Wade's absolutely hilarious interruption. Link in the description and pinned in the first comment below. Now, let's begin and see how a black swan warrior and a broken alpha are about to create the most beautiful chaos you've ever seen. Chapter 1. The kayak sliced through water like Grace had been born for this, which technically she had. Swan shifter, professional swimmer who'd choked at nationals, currently hiding from her elegant ballet-performing sisters at a remote lake because she was the family disappointment. It was just another normal Thursday. "Your stroke rate is approaching dangerous levels of emotional repression," Wade announced from his perch on the kayak's nose. The penguin's flippers gripped the edge like he was bracing for impact. "As your water sports psychologist, I recommend we decrease intensity by 43% and discuss your relationship with parental expectations." "You read 3 books, Wade," Grace said, pulling harder on the paddle. Cold spray kissed her face. Pine scent rolled off the surrounding forest. The lake stretched ahead, glass smooth except where her kayak carved through it. His chest puffed out. "That's 96% more credentials than most life coaches. Now, if we examine your need for speed through the lens of compensation theory," Grace increased her pace. Wade's flippers tightened on the kayak. 68% chance you're avoiding core emotional issues right now. 97% chance you made up that statistic. Let's unpack that defensiveness." The kayak shot forward. Water sang against the hull. Grace's shoulders burned, the good kind of burn, not the constant ache from months of suppressing her shift. Out here with just Wade in the lake, she could almost forget she'd failed everyone, could almost ignore how her swan wanted to surface, wanted to be, and she kept shoving it down because warrior swans weren't supposed to exist in the Sterling family. Ahead, the lake narrowed. Trees crowded closer. The musical rush of falling water drifted through morning air. Wade's head swiveled. "Grace. Grace, that sound? That's a waterfall, as in water falling, over rocks, into another body of water that is definitely private property." His voice climbed higher. "Do you know what happens to penguins in jail? We're not built for imprisonment. Our emotional architecture requires open water and regular access to feelings journals." "It's just a little waterfall." Grace grinned, aiming straight for it. "Little? No, Grace, I need you to examine why you're choosing chaos over safety right now. This is textbook avoidance behavior. I'm begging you to—" The kayak hit the first rapid. Water exploded around them. The nose bucked. Wade's flippers lost their grip and he slid backward, crashing into Grace's lap in an undignified heap of wet feathers and panic. "This is not therapeutic," Wade shrieked, scrambling for purchase. "I'm filing a formal complaint with the International Water Sports Psychology Board." "That doesn't exist," Grace laughed, fighting to keep the kayak steady. "It will after today." They shot through churning white water. The kayak rocked, tipped, caught air over a small drop. Grace's stomach flipped. Pure adrenaline, pure freedom, the exact opposite of everything her family wanted her to be. Wade's beak pointed straight up at the sky. "If we survive this, I'm charging double for the trauma processing sessions." The waterfall spat them into a larger lake. Calmer water, though still moving fast. Morning mist hung low, massive estate visible in the distance through the trees. Wade righted himself with as much dignity as a soaked, traumatized penguin could manage. Private property. Private, as in not yours. As in people call lawyers and lawyers call police and police call animal control. And I end up in a zoo explaining to other penguins how my client's emotional avoidance landed us in... The sickening thud cut through Wade's rant. The kayak lurched sideways. Wrong. Something was wrong. Grace's hands tightened on the paddle even as the world tilted, water rushing up to meet her face, cold shock stealing her breath. She surfaced, gasping. Wade popped up beside her, sputtering. Then a child's scream split the morning. Grace's head whipped around. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, dark curls plastered to her face, bobbing in the water 10 feet away. Small arms flailing. "Daddy!" the child sobbed. "Daddy's in the water!" Grace's training kicked in before thought. She swam hard, cutting through the lake in clean strokes. Behind her, Wade was already paddling toward the girl, his therapy speak abandoned for efficient penguin water rescue mode. Grace reached the child first. The girl pushed her away, surprisingly strong for her size. "Not me. Daddy. He went under. He's not coming up." Ice flooded Grace's veins. She looked at Wade. "I've got her," Wade said, swimming up beside the girl. "All business now. No jokes." "Find him." Grace dove. The lake bottom dropped away fast, deeper than it looked. Cold pressed against her ears. She kicked hard, scanning the murky water. There. A shape sinking slow, arms loose, body heavy. She grabbed him under the arms and hauled upward. He was solid muscle, dead weight. Her lungs screamed. She kicked harder, pulling him toward the light filtering through the water's surface above. They broke through. Grace gasped, treading water, keeping his head above the surface. His face was slack. Dark hair streamed water. A cut on his temple bled sluggishly. But his chest moved. Shallow, but breathing. "Bank!" Wade shouted. He was already swimming the little girl toward the nearest shore, speaking to her in low, calm tones that had 0% made-up statistics. Grace kicked toward shore, towing the unconscious man. The little girl's sobs carried across the water. Every stroke felt like moving through concrete. His weight threatened to drag them both down. Her swan rose inside her, desperate to help, wings wanting to emerge. She shoved it back down. Not now. The bank scraped her knees. She dragged him onto muddy grass. His body was all hard planes and expensive swimming gear. Unconscious, soaked, and somehow still commanding attention, even laid out like a corpse. Also, and Grace's brain registered this in the completely inappropriate way brains do during crises, stupidly, unfairly beautiful. Sharp jaw, full lips, the kind of face that belonged on billboards selling watches or cologne. "CPR," Wade announced, waddling up. Water streamed off his feathers. The little girl clung to his flipper, crying quietly. "You need to perform mouth-to-mouth immediately. I would do it, but beaks aren't anatomically compatible with human respiratory systems." "He's breathing," Grace said, pressing fingers to his neck. "Pulse strong." "Just knocked out." "Do it anyway," Wade said seriously. "For science?" "What?" "Medical science. Peer-reviewed medical science, and possibly your emotional closure regarding attractive drowning men. Let's unpack." Grace leaned down, checked his airway. His chest rose and fell, more steady now. The gash on his temple looked worse than it probably was. His survival instincts must have kicked in the moment she'd pulled him up. She bent closer anyway. Medical precaution. Definitely medical precaution, and not because Wade was being ridiculous and she needed to... His eyes snapped open. Dark eyes, storm gray, focused on her face hovering inches from his mouth. His hand shot up, gripping her arm. She jerked back. He coughed, water spilling from his lips, sat bolt upright, his head swiveling to the little girl. "Mira!" His voice was rough gravel. "Baby, are you okay?" The girl launched herself at him, wrapping small arms around his neck. "Daddy, you were sleeping in the water. The lake lady saved us." His arms went around her, holding tight, checking her over with frantic hands. "You're not hurt? You're sure?" "I'm okay, Daddy. I'm a good swimmer like you taught me. His shoulders dropped. Relief flooded his face. Then his gaze cut to Grace, still kneeling beside him. The relief vanished. His expression went cold. "She didn't save us," he said, voice flat. "She ran us over." Grace rocked back on her heels. "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't see you. The current was—" "You're trespassing." He got to his feet, pulling Mira with him. Stood there dripping lake water, bleeding from his temple, and somehow still looking down at her like she was something unpleasant he'd stepped in. "This is private property, my lake. And you hit me with your kayak on my lake." "I apologized," Grace said, standing. Her wet clothes clung to her skin. Wade waddled closer, positioning himself between her and the angry drowning victim. "What else do you want?" "I want you off my property." "Great. I'll leave right after I make sure you don't die from that head wound." His jaw tightened. "I'm fine. You were unconscious 30 seconds ago. And now I'm conscious. Thank you for your concern. You can go." Grace crossed her arms. "You're bleeding." "Head wounds bleed. Basic biology. Concussions kill. Also basic biology." Wade cleared his throat. "As a water sports psychologist, I can confirm that 89% of drowning victims display symptoms of denial in the first—" "Nobody asked you," the man said, not breaking eye contact with Grace. "Wow," Wade muttered. "Hostile. Let's unpack that." The man turned toward Mira, his voice immediately softening. "Come on, baby, we're going home." Grace squinted across the water. The mansion she'd glimpsed through the mist sat on the far shore. Had to be 5 kilometers away. "That estate yours?" "Yes." "It's 5 kilometers around the lake by foot. You can't walk that far. Not with a head injury." "We'll swim back." Grace stared at him. "You just drowned." "I didn't drown. Drowning implies death. I'm clearly alive." "Barely." She was almost 6 feet tall. She still had to look up at him. "Still counts." He looked down at her. Naturally, it was his height, but she was sure he deliberately made it look more dramatic. "Are you always this stubborn, or is brain damage making you extra special today?" she asked. His eyes narrowed, storm gray and sharp enough to cut. "Are you always this reckless, or do you run people over on private lakes to make this a special occasion?" "Technically," Wade interjected, "the collision was 43% environmental factors, 37% Grace's decision-making, and 20% your positioning in a high-traffic waterway." "There is no traffic," the man said through gritted teeth. "It's a private lake." "Was private," Wade corrected. "Now it's a crime scene, possibly a lawsuit. Definitely emotionally charged. I'm sensing a lot of unprocessed feelings here." "Daddy, I'm cold." Mira pressed against her father's leg. "Can the lake lady row us home, please?" The man's expression flickered. Just for a second. The cold mask cracked, and something raw showed through. Grace's chest tightened. She knew that look. Love, fear, the failure to protect loved ones. The man crouched down, eye level with Mira. "You sure you're not hurt, baby?" "I'm okay, Daddy. Just cold." He pulled her close, checking her over again, making sure. When he stood, his jaw was still tight, but the fight had drained out of him. "Fine," he bit out. "But after you drop us off, you leave, and you don't come back." "Deal," Grace said. "Get in the kayak before your daughter catches pneumonia." She flipped the kayak right side up. Wade immediately took command of the operation, because of course he did. "Mira, you're with me at the bow," Wade announced, waddling toward the front. "VIP seating, best view. 0 chance of capsizing, because I don't do capsizing twice in one day. My emotional capacity is maxed out." Mira giggled, actually giggled, and followed him. The man shot Grace a look that clearly said, "What kind of circus are you running?" But he climbed into the middle seat without comment, which put him directly in front of Grace. Close enough to smell lake water and expensive cologne, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the protective way he kept one hand on the kayak's edge, ready to grab Mira if anything went wrong. Grace settled into the rear seat and picked up the paddle. "Everyone ready?" "No," the man said. "Great." Grace pushed off from the bank. The kayak glided into deeper water. Morning mist still clung to the surface, turning everything soft and dreamlike. Birds called from the surrounding trees. The estate grew larger in the distance. all stone and glass and old money. "How old are you, Mira?" Wade asked, breaking the silence. "6. This is my daddy." She screwed up her face in a serious expression that was clearly mimicking someone. "People call him Mr. Thornwood." Grace's paddle stuttered mid-stroke. Thornwood, as in Thornwood Industries, as in billionaire wolf-shifter CEO Thornwood, as in the guy whose late wife's death had made national news 2 years ago. She'd just run over the most powerful alpha in the state. Perfect. "Some people call him Ash," Mira continued, still in her serious voice. "But I just call him Daddy." "I'm Wade," the penguin said, puffing his chest out. "I train water sport professionals. I trained Grace in breaststroke technique." "No, you didn't," Grace said, pulling harder on the paddle. "Yes, I did. Without my training, you'd just be flailing in the water. But swimming properly is an art, Grace, an art form. And by the way, you promised to pay me in premium fish. Since we moved to this lake, all I get is shrimp. Tiny shrimp, the kind I'm allergic to." "You're not allergic to shrimp." "I developed the allergy recently, stress-induced, from being capsized by reckless kayakers with authority issues." Mira laughed. Ash, Mr. Thornwood, didn't. But Grace caught the tiniest twitch at the corner of his mouth before he controlled it. "You live on the lake?" Ash asked, not turning around. His voice was carefully neutral. "Cabin on the North Shore," Grace said. "Public side." "For how long?" 3 months. "And you didn't think to check which parts of the lake were private?" Grace's grip tightened on the paddle. "I didn't think I'd be coming through the waterfall." "But you did come through the waterfall." "Obviously." "Deliberately." Grace didn't answer. Because yes, she'd come through deliberately. 67% of risk-taking behavior stems from unresolved personal trauma, Wade offered helpfully. "I could provide you both with a reading list." "Wade," Grace warned. "Just trying to facilitate healthy communication. You're welcome." The kayak cut through the water. Ash's back stayed rigid. Grace focused on her paddling, on the rhythm of movement, on anything except the fact that she'd nearly killed a man because she couldn't outrun her own problems. "Grace is a really good swimmer," Mira announced. "She swam down super deep to get you, Daddy, like a mermaid." "Which kind of shifter are you?" he asked without looking at her. "I don't shift." His eyebrows rose. "Ever?" "Not your business." "You nearly killed me because you wouldn't shift. That makes it my business." Heat flooded Grace's face. "I saved you. After you hit me. I apologized for that. Apologies change nothing. Neither does being an ahem, child aboard," Wade interrupted. Grace continued. "Neither does being a insufferable jackass, but you seem committed to it." The rest of the trip passed in icy silence. Even Wade kept quiet, which was possibly a first. The estate's private dock grew closer. Massive boathouse, stone steps leading up to manicured lawns. Grace guided the kayak alongside the dock. Ash climbed out first, then reached for Mira. The little girl hugged him tight. "Thank you for the ride, Lake Lady," Mira said over her father's shoulder. "You're welcome." Ash set Mira down on the dock, looked at Grace. His expression was unreadable. "Stay off my property, please," he said. Then he took his daughter's hand and walked away. Grace watched them go. Stone steps led up through perfectly manicured grass. Ash's wet shirt clung to his shoulders, water still dripping from his hair. The little girl looked back once, small hand raised in a wave. Grace waved back, her arm heavy. The morning air had turned warmer. Or maybe that was just the heat crawling up her neck, settling in her chest like a stone. Lake water dripped from her clothes onto the dock, forming small pools that caught the light. "Well," Wade said into the silence, "that went 73% worse than I anticipated, which is actually impressive given my usual accuracy rate. Should we talk about what just happened?" "No." Grace's voice came out rougher than intended. "Because I have thoughts. Many thoughts. Mostly about how you almost killed the most powerful alpha in the region, but also about the undeniable chemical tension between Wade," she warned, but knew once Wade started his rant, she couldn't stop him. "You and the emotionally unavailable widower with trust issues. The possible bond probability has jumped to 48%. We should really unpack—" Grace turned away. The kayak rocked beneath her feet as she stepped back in. Her shoulders ached, the bad kind of ache now, the kind that reminded her what she was suppressing. The paddle felt heavier in her hands, away from the estate, away from Ash Thornwood and his daughter and the disaster she'd made of a simple morning kayak. The dock receded behind them. Morning mist still clung to the water's surface, turning the world soft and unreal. Wade sighed, the sound carrying across the quiet lake. Avoidance behavior, classic. Let's schedule that for tomorrow's session, along with the trauma processing and the fear of intimacy. Grace pulled on the paddle. Water whispered against the hull. Birds called from distant trees. Her wet clothes stuck to her skin, cold now, uncomfortable. She focused on the rhythm. Pull, glide, pull. Anything to ignore the way her hands still trembled. "Wait, Grace and Wade." The small voice cut through the morning air. Small footsteps pounded against wood. Mira's voice called out, breathless and urgent. Chapter 2. Grace looked up. Mira raced down the stone steps, pink feather wings bouncing on her back. The kind sold at costume shops, cheap fabric stretched over wire frames, glitter shedding with every movement. "Grace, Grace, look!" Mira's voice carried across the water, bright with excitement. "I found my wings. They're not like yours yet, but I can practice. Maybe one day I'll fly with you." Grace's stomach dropped. Wade's head swiveled between her and the dock, his beak opening and closing without sound, possibly the first time he'd ever been speechless. "Wait, wait, wait!" Wade sputtered. "She can see your spirit, Swan. A 6-year-old sees it in 5 minutes, but Mr. Big Bad Alpha Wolf. Daddy up there doesn't? I've been with you forever and I've never seen it. This is profoundly unfair, and I need to process my feelings about this immediately." Ash appeared at the top of the steps. His expression was carefully neutral, but his hands were shoved deep in his pockets. Tension radiated from his shoulders. He looked like a man standing on a cliff edge, trying not to look down. Grace's pulse hammered in her throat. "What wings, sweetie?" "Your swan wings!" Mira spread her arms wide, demonstrating. The pink feathers fluttered. "They're so pretty, all black and gold and sparkly. They go all the way down to here." She gestured to her knees. "I can see them even when you're not flying." Grace's eyes met Ash's. Understanding passed between them like an electric current. He couldn't see her spirit swan, but Mira could, which meant Mira's wolf was emerging, at 6 years old, years earlier than normal. Wade made a strangled noise. "Black and gold? Black? Grace, you're a black swan? How did I not know this? I've written 3 papers on aquatic shifter classifications, and you never once mentioned you're the rarest. I need to pick up my jaw. Do I have a jaw? I don't think I have a jaw anymore because it's on the ground somewhere." Ash's jaw tightened. "Would you like to talk about wings more?" Grace asked, keeping her voice light. "Maybe over some hot chocolate?" "Yes!" Mira bounced on her toes. More glitter fell from the costume wings. "Please, please, please." Ash's throat worked. He looked at Grace, really looked at her. His eyes searched her face like he was trying to read something written in a language he'd forgotten, not seeing the woman who'd run him over, not the trespasser who'd invaded his sanctuary, just someone who might understand what he was too terrified to face alone, someone who could see what he couldn't. "Please," he said quietly, "stay for dinner." Footsteps echoed from inside the estate. 2 voices, warm and weathered. "Did I hear we have guests?" A woman emerged from the main entrance. Late 60s, silver hair pulled back in a practical bun, flour dusting her cardigan. Laugh lines creased her face. "Oh my, you're all soaking wet." A man followed her out, same age, reading glasses perched on his nose. He wore an apron that said "Kiss the Cook" in faded letters. "Ash, son, what happened? You look like you wrestled a lake and lost." "We capsized," Mira announced. "The lake lady saved us, and she has swan wings." The woman pressed a hand to her chest. "Oh dear. Well, come in, all of you. You'll catch your death out here." Her gaze landed on Wade. She blinked. "Is that a penguin?" "Wade," the penguin said, chest puffing out. He waddled forward with as much dignity as a soaking wet bird in reading glasses could manage. "Water sports psychologist. I'm here in a professional capacity to monitor Grace's emotional recovery from the traumatic kayaking incident." He paused. Also, do you have fish? Premium fish? Because Grace has been feeding me substandard shrimp for 3 months, and my nutritional needs are not being met." The woman's face lit up. "Oh, you're delightful. I'm Mrs. Hanson. This is my husband, Mr. Hanson. We keep the house for Mr. Thornwood." "Kept the house for 3 generations of Thornwoods," Mr. Hanson added, pride warming his voice. He looked at Ash with obvious affection. "Watch this one grow up." Mrs. Hanson's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I changed his diapers even." "We don't need to share that," Ash muttered. "We absolutely need to share that," Wade said, "for therapeutic context." Grace climbed up a couple of steps. Water squelched in her shoes. Mrs. Hanson took one look at her and clucked her tongue. "You're half frozen. Come on, dear, we'll get you sorted." She turned to Wade. "You too, Mr. Wade. I have salmon, fresh caught this morning." Wade's entire demeanor changed. Salmon, as in the omega-3 rich protein source recommended by 92% of avian nutritionists? "The very same." "I'm in love," Wade announced. "Grace, I'm leaving you for Mrs. Hanson. This is happening. Don't try to stop me." Mrs. Hanson laughed, a sound like warm honey. "Oh, I like you. Though you can't practice your coaching on us. We're as old as this mansion." Wade made a sound like a snort. "I'll have to coach Mira in swimming then, especially how to stay away from fast-moving kayaks piloted by emotionally repressed swan shifters." "Yippee!" Mira bounced. "Swimming lessons with Wade, flying lessons with Grace. Perhaps we'll start with getting dry and warm, then some food." Ash caught Grace's eye, his expression softening just slightly. "Agreed," Grace nodded. The walk up to the mansion was all warmth and gentle chaos. Mrs. Hanson wrapped Grace in a blanket that smelled like lavender and fresh bread. Mr. Hanson carried Wade like precious cargo, discussing fishing techniques with surprising enthusiasm. Mira held Grace's hand, chattering about her wings, about flying, about how swans were her new favorite animal. Ash walked beside them, silent, but his hand rested on Mira's shoulder, steady and protective. The mansion's interior was all dark wood and soft lighting, not cold and imposing like Grace expected. Lived in, comfortable. Family photos lined the hallways. Ash and a beautiful woman with kind eyes. Mira as a baby. Pictures that stopped 2 years ago. Mrs. Hanson disappeared into another wing of the mansion, then returned with dry clothes. "These were Elena's," she said softly to Grace. "She'd want them used." The name hung in the air. Ash's late wife. Ash took a beat, then nodded. "Mrs. Hanson is right. Please make yourself comfortable." He gestured toward the opposite hallway. "I'll change and be back in a few minutes." He disappeared down the corridor. Grace caught the scent of cedar and leather drifting from that direction, his private wing. The sound of his footsteps faded into expensive carpet and old wood. Grace changed in a guest bathroom. The clothes fit well enough, leggings and an oversized sweater that still smelled faintly of perfume. Someone loved, someone missed. Dinner was served in a dining room that could seat 20, but felt intimate with just the 6 of them. Mr. Hanson had made roasted chicken, vegetables glazed with honey, fresh bread that steamed when broken open. Wade got his own plate of salmon and looked like he might actually cry. "This is the best day of my life," Wade said, his voice muffled around a mouthful of fish. "Grace, take notes. This is how you treat a professional." "You're not a professional," Grace said. "I am now. Mrs. Hanson believes in me." Mira insisted on keeping her pink wings on through dinner. They kept catching on the chair back. She didn't care. She sat between Grace and Ash, asking questions about swans, how high they flew, what they ate, if they ever got tired. Grace answered carefully. Honestly, but carefully. Mira hadn't yet learned to tell the difference between spirit animals and real animals. But how would she know? Should a parent tell her that? Her mother had passed. But what about Ash? Did he know this was his responsibility? Grace remembered the night her mother had told her about her spirit swan, about their family and their legacy, and how being a warrior swan, black and gold instead of white and elegant like her sisters, meant she was different and special, not inferior, not broken, especially not broken. Her mother had made her understand that. Mrs. Hanson and Mr. Hanson moved around the table like a well-rehearsed dance, refilling glasses before they emptied, clearing plates. watching Ash with quiet concern that Grace recognized. They knew. They saw what she saw, a man barely holding himself together for his daughter's sake. "More bread, dear?" Mrs. Hanson offered the basket to Grace. "Thank you." "You're a shifter too?" Mr. Hanson asked, settling back into his chair. "Swan. Beautiful creatures." He smiled at Mira. "Our little one here is going to be a wolf, like her daddy, like her mama was." Mira beamed. "I'm going to be the best wolf." "You already are," Ash said quietly. After dinner, after Mira had been coaxed upstairs by Mrs. Hanson with promises of hot chocolate and a bedtime story told by Wade, Ash led Grace to the library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a fireplace crackling with fresh logs, leather chairs that looked older than Grace, the smell of paper and wood smoke. Ash closed the library door, stood there for a moment, his back to Grace. His shoulders rose and fell with a deep breath. "Thanks for staying for dinner," he said. "I haven't seen Mira be herself like that in a long time." "My pleasure." Grace leaned against the desk. "Save me from cooking tonight, and stop that talking penguin of mine from complaining about food for at least a week." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "What do you mean by Mira being herself?" He worked his throat, then looked back at her. Ash Thornwood wasn't the kind to avoid the issue at hand. Since her mother passed, she's never been herself. Not a naive 6-year-old anymore. She operates as usual. But I know behind the laughs and giggles, something's gone missing. "Business as usual?" Grace straightened. "Ash, a 6-year-old doesn't operate business. She plays, she laughs, she cries." "She should." "Exactly." His hands curled into fists at his sides. "But she hasn't been doing that. Not until today, right before dinner." "The pink wings?" "Yes, the wings. They were buried under her toys. Toys she hadn't touched in months." He worked his throat again. "What's happening to her?" he asked. "To Mira." Grace settled into one of the chairs. The leather creaked. "Her wolf is emerging early." Ash shook his head. "Wolves don't emerge until puberty. 12, 13 at the earliest." "Usually." Grace watched him. "But trauma can accelerate it. Grief, loss. The wolf rises to protect what's left." She paused. "What you've been doing doesn't help her." "Excuse me?" "Don't get me wrong. You're a good father from what I can see." Grace leaned forward. "I'm not sure about wolf shifters specifically, but I learned everything from my mother about recognizing my spirit animal when it awakened. How to manage and live with your animal. All the essential information, since I was 5. 5? His eyebrows rose. She smiled slightly. "Yes, 5. My family is particular, given our special circumstances. But yes, at 5 I learned about my spirit swan. Mine emerged when I was 9. I saw things differently after that. So for Mira, I suspect her wolf is emerging early, and you have to talk to her about it." He sat down across from her, not the kind of man to bury his head in his hands or rake his fingers through his hair in dramatic despair. He went straight to the heart of the problem, searching for solutions. "I'll talk to her tomorrow," he said, looking straight at her. She stood. "Good. Still, there's an elephant in the room you haven't addressed." He stood with her. "What might that be?" "Mira can see my spirit swan the moment her wolf emerges. You, the most powerful alpha in the region, cannot see my swan. How?" He nodded, shoved his hands into his pockets. "I could refuse to answer your question, but I think I owe you that much for what you've done tonight." He took a beat. "When Elena died, my wolf died with her." "Sorry, but there's no such thing, Thornwood. If you said when she died, my heart died with her, that's metaphoric. That I'd believe. But your wolf can't die while you're still alive." His jaw tightened. "You asked. I answered. That line of conversation is concluded." She huffed. "All right, suit yourself. I was just trying to help." She checked the antique clock on the mantel. "It's late, really late. I should go. I'll change out of these clothes. Keep them. They're warm." His voice left no room for argument. "And I'm driving you home. I can row. It's late, dark, cold, and unsafe to row across the lake at night." He was already heading toward the door. Grace followed. The conversation was over whether she liked it or not. Chapter 3. Ash's truck felt different with Grace Sterling in it, like the air had changed density, like the leather seats and wood grain and $17,000 sound system suddenly mattered less than the woman folding herself into his back seat. The Penguin claimed the front passenger seat immediately, settling in with an air of ownership that would have been amusing under different circumstances. "Premium sound system," Wade observed, adjusting his reading glasses. "Heated seats. 17% more lumbar support than standard luxury vehicles. I approve." "I'm thrilled," Ash said, starting the engine. Grace climbed into the back. Her movements were efficient, controlled. A swimmer's grace even on land. She wore Elena's clothes, his dead wife's leggings and oversized sweater, and somehow made them look like they'd always belonged to her. Ash's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The drive wound around the lake. Moonlight turned the water silver. Trees pressed close to the narrow road, their branches forming a tunnel overhead. He focused on the road, on the curves, on anything except the fact that he could see her in the rearview mirror. Dark hair just touching her shoulders. Choppy cut. The ends curved under, then kicked out. Unruly, wild, like she'd cut it herself and didn't care how it fell. Fair skin with a dusting of freckles across her cheekbones. The kind of face that shouldn't have made him want to protect her, because she was clearly capable of protecting herself. She'd pulled him from the bottom of a lake, had dove without hesitation, had fought him when he was being an ass. She was nothing like Elena. Elena had been soft curves and warm laughter, long blonde hair always perfectly styled, designer clothes and charity galas, and the ability to make everyone in a room feel like they were the most important person there. Grace was sharp edges and barely contained power. A black swan in borrowed clothes, living in a cabin that should have been condemned. He wasn't comparing, he never compared. He loved Elena, period. Would always love her. Didn't think he was capable of loving another woman the way he'd loved his wife. Not until something stirred deep in his chest. Something that had been dead for 2 years. Something that recognized the woman in his back seat in a way that made his breath catch. His wolf, dormant since Elena's death, silent, gone. As dead as Ash had told Grace it was. But now it wanted to surface, wanted to rise, wanted to turn around and look at her properly, wanted to know why she smelled like lake water and defiance and something darker, stronger. Ash forced it down, shoved it back into the silence where it belonged. Wade pulled a small notebook from somewhere and began scribbling furiously. "What are you doing?" Grace asked from the back seat. Her voice cut through Ash's thoughts like cold water. "Documenting the salmon varieties," Wade said without looking up. Mrs. Hansen served 3 distinct preparations. The flavor profiles suggest Norwegian origin, possibly farm-raised but ethically sourced. I'm leaving detailed notes. "You're leaving notes?" "Professional courtesy." Wade flipped a page. "Also, I'm writing swimming technique recommendations for Mira. She's got natural buoyancy and strong leg kick, but her arm extension needs work. Elbow too low on the recovery phase. Classic beginner mistake." "You met her for 3 hours," Grace said. "I'm a professional. I can assess technique in minutes." Wade kept writing, also leaving dietary suggestions. "Growing wolves need omega-3s. The Hansens clearly understand this, but I'm providing specific ratios." Ash's mouth twitched despite himself. "Appreciated." "You're welcome. I accept payment in premium fish." The cabin appeared through the trees, small, dark, hunched against the cold like a wounded animal trying to hide. Ash's wolf rose again, protective, angry. What the hell was she doing living there? "This is it?" Wade asked, his voice losing its usual confidence. "This is it," Grace said. Ash pulled up beside the cabin, cut the engine. His hands didn't want to leave the steering wheel, because once he got out, once he saw how she'd been living, he'd have to do something about it. "Your family owns this?" he asked, catching her eyes in the rearview mirror. "It's a retreat for dance students from the academy," Grace said. "Hasn't been used in years." A dancer. He filed that away. Another piece of the puzzle that was Grace Sterling. "What kind?" Her jaw tightened. She grabbed her bag, borrowed from Mrs. Hansen, filled with borrowed clothes, because apparently she'd been living in a freezing cabin with nothing. "Thanks for the ride." She pushed the door open. Cold air rushed in. "Grace!" Ash was out of the truck before conscious thought, coming around to her side. "Let me check inside first." "It's my cabin. There have been reports of rogue shifters in the area, territorial disputes. His voice went hard. Alpha. The tone he used in boardrooms when he needed compliance. Just let me check. You're paranoid. I'm careful. He was already walking toward the cabin. His wolf was pushing now, demanding. Check the perimeter. Make sure it's safe. Make sure she's safe. There's a difference. He heard her follow. Keys jingling. Wade muttering something about heating systems. The cabin was worse inside. 2 rooms. Furniture older than Mira. Rugs worn down to threads. Windows that didn't seal properly. He could feel the draft from where he stood. The kind of cold that settled into bones and didn't leave. She'd been living here for 3 months. Ash moved through the space like he was clearing a threat zone, checking the bedroom, a mattress on a frame, thin blankets, nothing else. The bathroom, barely functional, corners where shadows gathered and anything could hide. His wolf was furious now, howling inside his chest. This wasn't safe. This wasn't right. She shouldn't be here. He was aware of Grace watching him, leaning against the counter with her arms crossed. Something almost amused in her expression, like she found his concern entertaining. He flipped the light switch. Nothing. Power's out, Grace said. Happens sometimes. There's a generator, but where? Broken. His jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. He moved to the fireplace, the only heat source in this place. Stone structure, soot-stained, cold, dead. When did this break? He asked, kneeling beside it. When I moved in. 3 months ago. Yeah. 3 months. 3 months in freezing cold with no power, and she said it like it was nothing. Like warrior swans didn't need warmth or safety or basic human necessities. His hands moved over the stone, checking the flue, the damper. He ran billion-dollar companies, negotiated international contracts, could read a balance sheet in 3 languages. He had no idea how to fix a fireplace. Grace's mouth curved, just slightly. He caught it when he glanced back. Something funny? You don't know how to fix a fireplace. I run a multinational corporation. I don't personally repair... He stopped. She was right. He was useless here. You're right. I don't know how to fix a fireplace. It's broken anyway, Grace said. Has been for years, probably. Then how have you been? He stood, really looking at the cabin now. The thin blankets, the pathetic space heater in the corner, the windows that let in cold like they were trying to. Grace, this place is... A bird call cut through the night. Large, close, wrong. Ash moved on instinct. His hand shot out, pulling Grace behind him. His body became a shield. Every nerve fired. His wolf surged forward. Finally useful. Finally allowed to protect. It's just a messenger, Wade said from the counter. Bored. Like alphas protecting people was tiresome. Honestly, do alphas always have to be so dramatic? There's no cell service out here. How else would anyone communicate? Grace peered around his shoulder, close enough that he caught her scent properly for the first time. Lake water and pine and something floral underneath. Swan. His wolf recognized it. Wanted it. It's fine, she said. It's from my family. Ash forced himself to step aside. His wolf protested, loudly. A carrier pigeon perched on the windowsill, white and gray, harmless. Grace opened the window. The bird hopped inside. She removed a small tube from its leg, unrolled the paper. The cabin was small enough that Ash saw the words even though he tried not to look. Haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. Mother is worried. So she was hiding. From family. From expectations. From something that made her choose this frozen box over whatever life she'd left behind. Grace's fingers tightened on the paper. Her shoulders went rigid. She grabbed a pen, scrawled a response. I'm fine. Wade is fine. Been practicing. We'll be ready for the big day. Ash looked away, but his mind had already registered the information. Practicing what? Dancing? Swimming? Running away? She sent the bird off, closed the window, turned around. Their eyes met across the small space. Ash knew she knew he'd seen the message. The cabin was too small for secrets. The air felt heavy, charged, like lightning waiting to strike. He moved back to the fireplace, gave it one last futile examination. It's broken, I know. Grace, this place isn't... He stopped, looked at her, really looked at her. elegant and powerful and completely unaware of how the combination made his chest ache. "Do you want coffee?" "Your kayak didn't kill me this afternoon. What damage can your coffee do?" She almost smiled. It transformed her face, made her look younger, less guarded. She made coffee on a stove that barely worked. He was right. It was terrible. But he wrapped his hands around the chipped mug and drank it anyway. They stood on opposite sides of the tiny kitchen. The space between them felt like miles and inches at the same time. "This place is uninhabitable," Ash said finally. "Because someone had to." Grace bristled. "It's fine for me. No central heating, no power, no fresh food supply." He kept his voice level. "Reasonable. Not alpha commanding. Just concerned. How are you even— I can live without that stuff." She set her mug down hard. "And it's none of your business." His wolf snarled. "Yes, it is." He shoved the thought away. 83% of humans cannot survive extended periods without adequate heating, Wade provided helpfully. Also, that space heater is a fire hazard, and the insulation in this cabin is approximately 12% effective. I've been meaning to bring this up for weeks, but you get defensive when I mention your living conditions, so— "Wade," Grace warned. "What? I'm just providing data." Ash set his mug down, ran a hand through his hair. This wasn't going how he'd planned. He wasn't good at asking, hadn't needed to ask for anything in years. People usually just did what he wanted because he was Ash Thornwood, and that meant something. But Grace Sterling didn't care about his name or his money or the fact that every wolf in the region answered to him. She cared about her independence, her space, her right to freeze to death in a broken cabin if she damn well wanted to. "Stay at the mansion," he said. "What?" "Just for a few days. Let me get this place fixed. Fireplace, generator, insulation. Then you can come back and I'll never ask again." Grace shook her head. "I don't need— Mira bonded with you." The words came out rougher than he intended. Raw, true. In 3 hours, she was more herself than she's been in 2 years. If you could stay, just for a few days, help her understand what's happening with her wolf, it would— His throat closed. He forced it open. "It would help me, a lot." Grace's expression shifted, softened, just for a moment. "I could offer to employ you," Ash continued, words tumbling out now. "Private tutor, live-in nanny. But I think you'd take that as an insult. So instead I'm asking, friend to friend, let me fix your cabin, make it actually livable. In exchange, help my daughter." "I'm not your friend." The words shouldn't have hurt. Didn't hurt. Couldn't hurt, because he was dead inside, except for his daughter. "No," he said quietly. "But maybe you could be." Silence stretched between them. The cabin creaked. Grace's eyes searched his face like she was looking for something. He didn't know what. Didn't know if he had it to give. "I'm in," Wade announced. "Absolutely in. Where's my stuff? I need to pack." "You don't have stuff," Grace said. "I have emotional baggage and it's coming with me." Wade hopped down from the counter, waddling toward the bedroom. "Mrs. Hanson promised me salmon 3 times a day. I'm not letting that opportunity slip away because you're being stubborn about basic human needs." Ash watched Grace. Her jaw worked. Her fingers drummed against the counter, making a decision that felt bigger than it should. "Fine," she said quietly. "A few days." Relief hit him like a wave. His wolf settled. Satisfied. She'd be safe. Warm. Close. Too close. "Thank you," Ash said. Wade emerged carrying a rubber duck. Yellow. Cartoonish. Grace stared. "Is that—" "My emotional support duck," Wade said with enormous dignity. "The Hansons' hospitality is world-class, but I can't sleep without Mr. Quackers. He provides 17% more emotional stability than alternative comfort objects. You named your rubber duck Mr. Quackers. His name chose him. I don't make the rules." Wade waddled toward the door. "Now let's go. I have salmon to eat and a 6-year-old wolf to coach." "This is the best week of my professional career." Ash's mouth twitched, actual amusement cutting through the tension. Grace grabbed her bag, the borrowed clothes, moving with that controlled grace that made his wolf pay attention. Ash held the door open. She passed close enough that he caught her scent again. Lake water and defiance and something his wolf wanted to chase. Their eyes met. Close enough to see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. close enough to count the freckles on her cheekbones, close enough to feel something shift in his chest, something dangerous, something impossible, something that felt terrifyingly like hope. "Thank you," he said again, quieter this time, meaning it. "Don't thank me yet," Grace said. "I might make everything worse." "Impossible," he gestured toward the truck. "Everything's already as bad as it gets." Grace's lips twitched, almost a smile. Then she walked past him into the cold night air. The drive back was quieter. Wade clutched his ridiculous duck, already half asleep. Grace sat in the back, watching the lake slide past through the window. Ash kept his eyes on the road. Mostly. But he caught himself glancing in the rearview mirror. Once, twice, more times than he could count. Making sure she was really there. Making sure she wasn't disappearing. Making sure his wolf hadn't imagined the whole thing. The black swan with wild hair and freckles, and the kind of strength that made him want to be strong again, too. Chapter 4. Grace woke to the smell of bacon and fresh bread and something sweet, cinnamon maybe, or vanilla. Then Wade's voice cut through the morning air, high-pitched with excitement. "Is that fresh salmon? Mrs. Hanson, you've outdone yourself. This is a culinary masterpiece. The omega-3 content alone." Grace pulled on clothes and followed the smell and the sound. The breakfast room stopped her in the doorway. Golden light poured through floor-to-ceiling windows. The Hansons moved around the table like dancers in a well-rehearsed performance. Mr. Hanson refilling juice glasses, Mrs. Hanson setting down platters of eggs and toast and fruit that looked like it had been arranged by someone who actually cared. Wade perched on the table's edge, gesturing with one flipper at what appeared to be a presentation-sized piece of grilled salmon. "The sear is perfect," Wade was saying. 94% optimal crispness while maintaining internal moisture. I've written a paper on this exact technique." "You haven't written any papers," Grace said from the doorway. "I'm planning to write papers. The research phase is critical." Mira sat at the table in a pink dress that matched her costume wings from yesterday. She looked like something out of a storybook. Dark curls brushed smooth, face lit up with actual joy as she laughed at Wade's increasingly absurd fish commentary. And Ash. Ash sat in a leather reading chair near the windows, coffee cup on the side table, watching the scene like he was afraid it might disappear if he looked away. Morning light caught in his dark hair. He wore jeans and a simple black shirt, and somehow still looked like he belonged in a magazine spread about billionaires in their natural habitat. Prince in a fairy tale, Grace thought, then immediately wanted to punch herself for thinking it. He caught her eyes across the room, nodded, a simple acknowledgement that felt like more. "Grace!" Mira launched herself from her chair, small arms wrapped around Grace's waist in a hug that was impossibly strong for a 6-year-old. "You're staying. Wade said you're staying for days and days, and this is the best retreat week ever. I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life." "Big words for a little girl." Grace looked over Mira's head at Ash, caught something flash across his face. Pain, sharp and quick, there and gone like smoke. Because his daughter was talking about memories, about things she'd remember, and Elena wasn't here to be part of them. Grace's chest ached. "Come eat," Mrs. Hanson said, pulling out a chair. "You need proper breakfast." Grace ate one piece of toast, drank black coffee, ignored the way Ash's gaze kept sliding toward her plate, his jaw tightening every time she didn't reach for more food. After breakfast, Wade hopped down from the table with enormous authority. "Mira, we begin your aquatic training regimen at 0900 hours. He checked a watch he wasn't wearing. "That's now. We'll start with basic stroke mechanics, breath control, and water safety protocols. Then we'll advance to intermediate techniques including bilateral breathing, flip turns, and competitive starts." "What's bilateral breathing?" Mira asked, eyes wide. "Breathing on both sides. Critical for competitive swimming. I've trained 17 Olympic athletes using this exact methodology." "You haven't trained anyone," Grace said. "I'm about to train someone. The principle is the same." Wade waddled toward the door. "Mira, retrieve your swimsuit. We have work to do." Mira looked at her father. "Can I, Daddy? Please?" Ash's expression softened. "Yes, but you stay where Wade can see you, and you listen to what he says." "I always listen." Mira bounced toward the stairs. Grace stood. I should probably supervise this disaster. We'll both supervise, Ash said, standing with her. Mrs. Hanson appeared from the kitchen, pressing a wicker basket into Ash's hands. Everything you need. Lunch for you both. Her eyes lingered on Grace, though someone needs to actually eat it. Snacks for Wade based on his very specific nutritional requirements, and special items for Mira per Wade's instructions. Grace blinked. You're not taking Wade's dietary advice seriously, right? Mrs. Hanson's smile was knowing, warm. Of course not, for the most part. But there's something that Penguin said that's universally true, so I'll take it to heart. She looked between Grace and Ash. Animals are innocent. They love unconditionally, especially spirit animals when recognizing... She stopped. Her eyes went wide. Oh dear, I've said too much. Excuse me. She disappeared back into the house. Grace turned to Ash. What did she mean? No idea. He was already walking toward the lake. She knew he was lying. The lake stretched out before them, morning mist still clinging to the surface. Wade had claimed a small beach area, arranging rocks into what he insisted was a proper training facility. Mira stood knee-deep in water, pink swimsuit bright against the gray-blue lake. Wade perched on a rock beside her, gesturing with his flippers. Elbows high on the recovery, Wade was saying. Think of your arm as a windmill, a graceful, efficient windmill, not a broken helicopter. That's what you're doing now, broken helicopter arms. I don't know what that means, Mira giggled. It means your technique is 73% suboptimal. Now watch me. Wade demonstrated by flailing his flippers in what was absolutely not proper swimming form. See? Smooth, efficient, like poetry. That looks nothing like swimming, Grace called from the rocks. That's because I'm demonstrating the concept, Grace. The metaphysical essence of proper stroke mechanics. You wouldn't understand. You're too focused on literal interpretation. Ash had found a flat rock about 50 feet from Wade's training facility. Far enough to give them space. Close enough to reach Mira in seconds if anything went wrong. He unpacked the basket. Sandwiches, fruit, cookies, 2 thermoses, 1 coffee, 1 hot chocolate. Enough food for a family of 6. So, Ash said, not looking at her. What kind of dance do you do? Grace picked up a sandwich she had no intention of eating. Classical. Like ballroom classical? No, ballet. His eyebrows rose. Ballerina. That makes perfect sense. What do you mean? That's why you ate 1 piece of toast for breakfast. His voice stayed level, but something hard crept into it. I don't think that's discipline. I think it's unreasonable. Dance should be art that people enjoy watching, not ballerinas starving themselves to skin and bone. And for what? Grace snorted before she could stop herself. Agreed. He arched an eyebrow, probably didn't expect her to agree so easily. She didn't mean to say more, didn't mean to open up. But he had a way of drawing her in, like the words wanted out, and he was the only one who'd actually listen. I'm practicing for an important performance, she said finally. Not for me, for my family, for the legacy of the dance theater. She tore off a piece of sandwich, didn't eat it. I'm the youngest of 5 sisters. The art director wants a classical Swan Lake piece. My sisters hate classical. They want modern interpretation. But we perform what the investors want. Is that why you're hiding at the lake? I'm not hiding. He waited. Patient. Infuriating. Fine. Yes. She threw the sandwich piece toward the water. A fish rose to investigate. I know the classical choreography well enough. I don't need to rehearse. I came here for peace and tranquility. And swimming? It's a hobby. Down by the water, Wade was explaining something about hydrodynamics to Mira, who was nodding along like she understood every word. The morning sun caught in her dark hair. She looked so happy, so completely, innocently happy. Then Grace heard it, the high-pitched quacking, urgent, afraid. A mother duck burst into view around the bend, 4 ducklings paddling frantically behind her. They cut across the water right through Wade's training facility. A shadow fell across the lake. Grace's head snapped up. A hawk, massive, easily 3-foot wingspan, landed in a tree directly above the beach. Its eyes locked on the ducklings. Ash was on his feet before Grace registered the movement. His whole body had gone predator. Wolf rising. Everything about him changed. Shoulders broader, stance lower, eyes gone gold at the edges. He charged toward Mira. Grace grabbed his arm, pulled hard. "Stop!" He whirled on her. "That bird is dangerous. Let go." "No." She dug her heels in. "Look, really look at your daughter. Give her a chance to show you what she can do. She's 6 years old and there's a predator. She's an alpha wolf emerging early." Grace's voice went sharp. "And you're about to teach her that she can't handle threats. That daddy will always save her. Is that what you want?" Mira stood in the shallows, water lapping at her knees. She'd gone completely still. Her eyes were locked on the hawk. Then she raised one small hand, pointed at the bird. "Stay," Mira said. Her voice carried across the water. Clear, commanding, nothing childlike about it. "Do not touch the ducks. This is my territory, and you do not touch my ducks." Wade fluffed his chest beside her, trying to look threatening. If the hawk actually attacked, there wasn't much a penguin could do, but he stood his ground anyway. The bird didn't move. The mother duck and her ducklings swam to safety behind a cluster of rocks. Mira locked eyes with the hawk. The hawk spread its wings, huge, terrifying, built for killing. Ash surged forward. Grace tackled him. They hit the ground hard. She landed on top of him, using her weight to pin him down. His body was all coiled muscle and barely restrained violence beneath her. "Trust Mira," Grace said against his ear. Her heart hammered. "You have to trust her. She can do this." "If that bird touches my daughter, it won't. Watch." "Yield!" Mira called to the hawk. Louder now, more certain. Pure alpha command in a 6-year-old's voice. "Yield, yield, yield." The hawk held its position for 3 heartbeats, 4, 5. Then it folded its wings and took off, disappearing over the trees. Mira turned around, face bright with triumph. "Grace, Daddy, did you see? Did you see what I did?" "I saw," Grace called back. "That was amazing, Mira. You were perfect." Beneath her, Ash's chest heaved. His heart hammered against her ribs. His hands had come up to grip her arms, not pushing her away, just holding on like he might fly apart without an anchor. "That was reckless," he said. His voice shook. Grace pushed up slightly, looking down at him. Their faces were inches apart. "No, that was having confidence in your daughter. That's the least you can do. Cushion her from every threat and she'll never develop. She'll never learn her own strength. She's 6. His grip on her arms tightened. 6 years old, Grace. She shouldn't have to face down predators. She should get to be a child. She's not a regular child. Her wolf is emerging years early because she's already faced the worst threat there is." Grace's throat burned. She lost her mother. Nothing else will ever be that scary. So you can either let her learn to handle the smaller threats now, or you can wrap her in bubble wrap and watch her break the first time you're not there to save her. "My mother taught me independence at a very young age." Grace's jaw tightened. Trust isn't pretty. Trust is terrifying, but it's necessary. "Your mother taught you to starve yourself for Swan Lake." His voice went cruel, desperate, lashing out. "Forgive me if I don't take parenting advice from someone hiding in a freezing cabin because her family expects too much." Grace flinched like he'd struck her. "You're not her mother," Ash continued. The words came out jagged, broken. "You're not Elena. You'll never be Elena. You don't get to make decisions about my daughter's safety. You don't get to decide what risks she takes." The words hung in the air between them. Poisonous, irretrievable. Grace rolled off him, got to her feet. Her hands were shaking. She looked down at him, still sprawled on the ground. "You asked me here. You begged me to help. Said Mira bonded with me, that I could help her understand her wolf. You're on your own now." She turned toward the water, her vision blurred. She blinked hard. "Wade, we're leaving." Wade looked up from where he'd been congratulating Mira on her alpha display. "But we just started the intermediate stroke mechanics module. Mira's really grasping the fundamentals." "Now, Wade," she stated, walking away. "Grace?" Mira called from the water. "Where are you going? I thought you were staying for days and days." Grace couldn't look at her, couldn't see the confusion on that small face. "I have to go, sweetie. But Wade will come back and finish your lessons, I promise. But I wanted you to teach me about swans, about flying. Grace's throat closed. She forced words out anyway. Your dad will teach you everything you need to know. He's good at that. She started walking, away from the lake, away from Mira's protests, away from the happy morning that had shattered like glass dropped on stone. Wade waddled beside her, uncharacteristically silent. Behind them she heard Mira's voice, small, lost. "Daddy? Why is Grace crying?" Grace walked faster. She didn't look back at Ash. Didn't see him standing frozen on the rocks, hands curled into fists at his sides. Didn't see Mira swim to shore and wrap wet arms around her father's waist, asking over and over why the lake lady was leaving. Didn't see Mrs. Hanson watching from the mansion windows, shaking her head, one hand pressed to her mouth. Just kept walking. Away from the man who'd reminded her that she'd never be enough for anyone's family. Not her own, and definitely not his. Chapter 5. Ash carried Mira back to the mansion. She didn't say anything, didn't ask where Grace went, didn't cry, just pressed her face against his shoulder and held on. The silence was worse than tears. He tried to brush away the image of Grace walking away, tried not to see her shoulders shaking, tried not to hear the crack in her voice when she'd said, "Fine. You're not Elena. You'll never be Elena." The words sat in his throat like broken glass. Mrs. Hanson met them at the door. Her expression said everything she wouldn't. Disappointment, concern, the kind of maternal judgment that made him feel 6 years old again. "Bath time, sweetheart," she said, reaching for Mira. Mira pulled back, looked up at Ash with dark eyes that were far too old for her face. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, careful. "I'm afraid you're losing someone like Mommy again. And that hurts." She took a shaky breath. "So I'd rather not have a mom again, okay? That way it won't hurt when they leave." The words hit like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed. Hard, until his ribs cracked and his heart forgot how to beat. "Mira." "It's okay, Daddy. I understand." She went to Mrs. Hanson without looking back. Ash stood in the empty hallway. Frozen. His daughter had just told him she'd rather live without a mother than risk losing someone else. Because of him. Because she'd watched him destroy himself after Elena died. Because she knew, at 6 years old, that love meant pain and loss meant death. Mrs. Hanson paused at the stairs, turned. "Your wolf is unsettling," she said quietly, growling so loud I can hear it from here. "It's fine. It's not fine." She looked at him over her shoulder. Her eyes were sad, knowing. That's not grief making that sound. That's recognition. Mr. Hanson appeared from the kitchen, dish towel over his shoulder. He looked at Ash the way he used to when Ash was 16 and had wrecked his first car, disappointed but not surprised. That only happens when wolves find their mates. "She's not." Ash stopped. His wolf surged, snarled. The word mine echoed in his head so loud it drowned out thought, drowned out reason, drowned out everything except the certainty that Grace Sterling was his, and he'd sent her away. "I know what I'm doing," he said instead. "Do you?" Mrs. Hanson's voice was gentle, devastated, because from where I'm standing you just broke that girl's heart and your daughter's in the same sentence. She took Mira upstairs. Their footsteps faded into silence. Ash stood in the empty hallway. His wolf clawed at the inside of his chest. Demanding, desperate, he shoved it down, forced it back into silence. He didn't have a fated mate. He didn't need one, because he had chosen Elena, his love, his partner, his wife, and he never regretted his decision. Not once, not even now. The satellite phone rang. The sound cut through the mansion like a knife, sharp, wrong. Ash's head snapped toward his office. That phone only rang for one reason: absolute emergency. He'd given explicit orders not to be disturbed during his monthly retreat with Mira. The only calls that came through were the kind that meant someone was dying or about to. He crossed the hall in 3 strides, grabbed the phone off his desk hard enough to crack the wood beneath his palm. "What?" The location leaked. His beta's voice was clipped. Professional. But underneath, terror, raw and barely controlled. "Your stay at the mansion. Someone talked. We're tracking the source, but there's no time for that now. You need to get Mira and the Hansons out. Now. Ash's blood went cold. Ice flooded his veins. How many rogues? It's not rogues. A pause. Heavy, loaded. It's the Blackridge Covenant. The room tilted. The Blackridge Covenant didn't take jobs for less than 7 figures. They specialized in impossible kills, high-value targets, people with security that couldn't be breached, politicians, crime lords, alphas who'd made too many enemies and thought themselves untouchable. People like him. I can handle mercenaries, Ash said. His voice came out flat. Dead. The tone he used in boardrooms when someone threatened his pack. Not these. They know what you're capable of. No amount of money would get them to fight you directly. Papers shuffled on the other end of the line. Computer keys clicked. You've got 15 minutes, maybe less. They're launching the attack from across the lake. Ash's heart stopped. Everything stopped. Repeat that. Across the lake, North Shore. They're setting up camp now. Satellite picked up heat signatures 10 minutes ago. Long-range weapons. The kind that work with dark magic. Cursed ammunition. The kind you can't heal from easily if you're hit. The kind that... I know what they are. Ash cut him off. His hand tightened on the phone until plastic groaned. North Shore, you're sure? Positive. Why? His beta's voice changed. Understanding hit. Oh, fuck. The Sterling cabin. The North Shore. Where Grace's cabin sat, dark and cold and completely undefended. Where Grace was alone except for a penguin with delusions of grandeur. Where Grace was crying because he'd told her she wasn't enough. His wolf exploded. No more silence. No more denial. No more shoving it down or pretending it didn't exist. Just pure feral rage, and one word screaming through every nerve, every cell, every part of him that had been dead for 2 years and suddenly, impossibly, wasn't. Mate. Mine. Protect. Ash, you there? Ash, get a chopper to the mansion. 15 minutes. Ash was already moving, out of the office, phone pressed to his ear, his other hand reaching for the weapons cabinet. Armed. Full tactical team. I don't care who you pull. Get them here. Copy. What are you... Saving my mate. He grabbed his keys off the hall table, his satellite phone. The gun he kept in the drawer. Glock 19, loaded with silver bullets, the kind that could drop a shifter in one shot and a human in half. Hansons! They appeared at the top of the stairs. Mr. Hanson half carrying Mira, wrapped in a towel, still dripping from her bath. Her eyes were wide. Afraid. Bunker. Now! Ash's voice came out alpha, pure command, the tone that made wolves submit and humans obey without question. Don't open the door for anyone, even if a bomb drops nearby, even if you hear my voice. You stay in that bunker until I physically come get you. Understood? Ash, Mrs. Hanson started. Now! They ran. Ash watched them disappear down the hall toward the hidden entrance. Counted 3 seconds, heard the heavy door slam. The locks engage. Electronic, mechanical, magic-reinforced steel 6 inches thick. They'd be safe. Mira would be safe. He shoved through the front door. The truck was already running. He didn't remember starting it. Didn't remember getting in. Didn't remember shifting into gear or slamming his foot on the gas. His hands gripped the wheel hard enough that his knuckles went white. Hard enough that claws threatened to break through skin. He had 15 minutes. 5 minutes to drive to Grace's cabin. 5 minutes to get her out. 5 minutes to get back and load everyone on the chopper. Plenty of time. Simple math. His wolf snarled. Not enough. Never enough. She's alone. She's unprotected. She's ours and we left her. We threw her away. We told her she wasn't enough, and now she's going to die thinking we didn't want her. Ash pressed harder on the gas. The speedometer climbed. 60, 70, 80 on roads meant for 40. The drive around the lake had never felt longer. Trees blurred past. The road curved and twisted like a snake. Every second was a lifetime. Every heartbeat was too slow. His wolf pushed at his skin, demanding to be let out, demanding to run faster than any truck could drive. But shifting took time, and time was the one thing he didn't have. You're not Elena. You'll never be Elena. He'd said that. Had looked at Grace, brave, fierce, impossible Grace who'd saved him from drowning and his daughter from suffocating in grief, and told her she wasn't enough, told her she'd never be enough. His wolf howled. The sound echoed in his head. Grief and rage and recognition all tangled together. Because it knew, had known from the moment she'd pulled him from the lake. Maybe from the moment her kayak had hit his and their eyes had met, and something fundamental had shifted in the universe. Something that couldn't be undone or ignored or denied. She was his mate. Not chosen, not planned, not anything like Elena. But his wolf's, the other half of his soul that he'd thought died with his wife. Elena had been his choice, his love, his first chance at happiness, the woman he'd built a life with, the mother of his child, the person who'd made him believe in forever. Grace was his fate, his match, his second chance at living instead of just surviving. And he'd thrown her away because he was terrified. Because loving someone again meant risking the pain again. Because it felt like betraying Elena's memory to want someone new, to want someone different, to want someone who made his wolf wake up after 2 years of silence. But his wolf didn't care about betrayal or fear or the past. His wolf only cared that their mate was in danger, that mercenaries with cursed weapons were setting up camp to use her cabin as a staging ground, that she was alone and undefended and probably cold and hungry and heartbroken because he'd been a coward. The cabin appeared through the trees, dark, small, vulnerable. A sitting target. Ash slammed on the brakes. Gravel sprayed. The truck fishtailed. He was out before it fully stopped, gun in one hand, phone in the other. Then he smelled it. Gunpowder, ozone, the acrid stench of dark magic, sulfur and burned hair, and something fundamentally wrong that made his wolf recoil even as it surged forward. They were already here. Not setting up camp, not preparing, not on their way. Here. Chapter 6. Grace sat on the worn couch, staring at the cold fireplace. Wade perched on the counter, uncharacteristically quiet. He hadn't made a single fake statistic in the past hour. That was how she knew things were bad. "You should eat something," Wade said finally. "Not hungry." 72% of emotional breakdowns are preceded by Wade. He went quiet again. The cabin felt smaller than usual, colder. The broken fireplace mocked her. The thin walls let in every gust of wind. Grace pulled Elena's borrowed sweater tighter around herself. "You're not Elena. You'll never be Elena." She squeezed her eyes shut. Tried not to see Ash's face when he'd said it. Tried not to hear the certainty in his voice. "For what it's worth," Wade said quietly, "that man is an idiot. He's grieving. He's an idiot who's grieving. The two aren't mutually exclusive." Wade adjusted his reading glasses. "Also, his wolf recognizes you as his mate." Mrs. Hanson confirmed it, which means he's not just an idiot. He's a self-sabotaging idiot with attachment issues. And glass exploded. The window shattered inward. Grace was on her feet before conscious thought. A metal canister hit the floor, spinning, spewing thick black smoke. "Gas!" Wade shrieked. 78% chance it's toxic." Grace grabbed Wade off the counter, dropped low. Smoke filled the cabin fast, too fast, unnatural, magic-laced. It burned her lungs, made her eyes water. The door exploded inward. 3 men, black tactical gear, faces covered, guns raised. Mercenaries. The cabin was small, close quarters. That worked in her favor. The mercenaries focused on Grace. Using the distraction, Wade ducked behind the couch and scaled the shelf undetected. His flippers found purchase on the worn wood. He launched himself at the first man. "Psychological warfare!" Wade screamed, flapping his wings directly in the mercenary's face. His flippers found the man's eyes, jabbed, scratched, relentless. "Ocular assault protocols, 73% effective against armed opponents." The man stumbled back, cursing, one hand reaching for his face. Wade waddled up his chest, surprisingly fast for a penguin, and stomped on the man's throat. Not hard enough to crush, just enough to make him gag. "Choke!" The mercenary's hand shot up to grab Wade. The penguin launched himself sideways onto the shelf, landed perfectly. The shelf tipped. Canned goods rained down. Soup, beans, something heavy that might have been peaches. They hit the mercenary like artillery. He went down under the avalanche, groaning. "Gravity is my ally," Wade announced. Grace grabbed the cast-iron skillet from the stove. The second mercenary was raising his gun. She swung hard, connected with his temple. The impact jarred up her arm. Metal against bone. He dropped like a stone. The third mercenary aimed at Wade. Grace dove. Her shoulder hit his knees. They went down together. She rolled, came up behind the counter. Her palms scraped against the floor. Blood welled up, hot and sharp. The mercenary fired. The bullet punched through the cabinet above her head. Wood splintered. Dishes exploded in a shower of ceramic shards. Her hand found the knife block. She grabbed the biggest blade, 10 inches of kitchen steel. Grace threw the knife. It wasn't elegant. Wasn't like the movies. But it hit him in the shoulder, and he dropped the gun with a scream. Wade waddled to the sink, knocked the dish soap bottle onto the floor. It split open. Soap spread across the worn boards in a slick, iridescent puddle. The first mercenary, the one who'd been buried in canned goods, staggered to his feet, took 2 steps toward Grace. His boots squeaked on the floor, then hit the soap. He went down hard. His head cracked against the floor with a sickening thud. Didn't get back up. "Environmental advantages." Wade puffed his chest out. "I've been planning that move for weeks." "You have not," Grace panted. "I could have been. The theoretical framework was there." The window on the opposite wall shattered. 2 more men climbed through, then 3 more through the door, then more behind them. Heavy boots, the smell of gun oil and dark magic. Grace's stomach dropped. Too many. The cabin was too small. Nowhere to run. She grabbed the fire poker, swung at the nearest attacker. He blocked with his forearm, body armor underneath the jacket. Her swing glanced off uselessly. The vibration shot up her arm. He backhanded her. Grace's head snapped sideways. Stars exploded across her vision. She tasted copper. The poker clattered to the floor. Strong hands grabbed her arms, slammed her against the wall. The impact drove the air from her lungs. Pain bloomed across her shoulders. "Alive," one of them said, voice distorted through a mask. "Boss wants her alive." "Why?" Another voice, closer. She could smell his sweat through the gear. "Leverage. The alpha will come for her." Grace's heart stopped. This wasn't random. They knew about Ash. Knew she'd been at the mansion. They were using her as bait. Wade launched himself at the man holding Grace. Aimed for the eyes. Always the eyes. His beak jabbed at the gap between helmet and mask. The mercenary jerked his head back. Wade landed on the man's shoulder, stomped on his ear with both feet. "Auditory disruption. Inner ear trauma. You're going to have vertigo for weeks." The mercenary grabbed Wade, threw him. Wade hit the opposite wall with a sickening thud, slid to the floor, lay still. His reading glasses skittered across the floor. "Wade!" Grace thrashed against the grip. Useless. They were too strong. Too many. More men poured through the door. 6, 7, 8. The cabin floor creaked under their weight. They surrounded her. Guns raised, black metal gleaming in the dim light. One stepped forward, larger than the others. Leader. "You're going to sit down, stay quiet, and wait for the alpha to come running." He tilted his head. "Then we kill you both." "Romantic?" Grace spat. Blood dripped from her split lip. She could taste it, metallic and warm. He raised his gun, pressed the barrel against her forehead. Cold metal. Cursed metal. She could feel the dark magic crawling across her skin like insects. Wrong. Unnatural. "Any last words?" The door exploded. Not opened, not kicked in. Exploded. Wood and metal and hinges flew inward like shrapnel. One of the mercenaries went down screaming, a piece of door frame embedded in his leg. Blood sprayed. Ash stormed through the opening. He remained in his human form, but his eyes were something else. Burned gold, feral, wolf shining through human skin. He raised the gun and fired. The sound was deafening, thunder in the small space. The first mercenary dropped. Headshot. The second spun away, clutching his throat. Blood poured between his fingers. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes lit the smoky cabin like lightning. The smell of gunpowder choked the air. Ash moved like water, like shadow, like death given form. He dropped and rolled, came up shooting. 2 more mercenaries fell. Their bodies hit the floor with dull thuds. One of them got close, too close, swung a knife coated in black magic. The blade left trails of darkness in the air. Ash caught his wrist, twisted, bones snapped with a sound like a branch breaking. The man screamed. Ash shot him in the chest. Point blank. The body jerked, fell. The leader backed toward the window. Fall back, fall back. Too late. Ash was on him, gun pressed under his jaw. You attack innocent women and children and penguins for money. You don't deserve to live. Ash pulled the trigger. The body dropped, hit the floor like a sack of grain. Ash turned, scanning the room. Gold still burning in his eyes. Gun sweeping left to right, looking for more threats. Silence. No one else standing except them. Grace's ears rang. A high-pitched whine that wouldn't stop. Smoke hung thick in the air. Bodies littered the cabin floor. Blood pooled on the worn wooden boards, spreading slowly, seeping into the cracks. Ash turned to her fully, gold fading from his eyes, back to storm gray, human. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, shaking. Grace couldn't speak, could barely breathe, just stared at him, at the man who'd told her to leave, who'd come back anyway. Grace, are you hurt? Wade, she managed. Her voice came out hoarse. Wade's! Ash crossed the cabin in 2 strides, knelt beside the penguin, pressed 2 fingers to Wade's neck, checking for a pulse that might or might not exist in penguin anatomy, then scooped him up carefully, gently. He's breathing, knocked out, we need to go. Go where? Now! He grabbed her hand, pulled her toward the door, toward the truck idling outside with its door still open, engine running, headlights cutting through the smoke like searchlights. Grace stumbled over a body. Ash caught her. Kept moving. His hand was warm. Solid. Real. He shoved her into the passenger seat. Wade in her lap, surprisingly heavy for a penguin. Warm, still breathing. Slammed the door, ran around to the driver's side. The truck was moving before Grace's seatbelt clicked. What the hell was that? Grace's voice came out thin, shaky. Blackridge Covenant, Mercenaries. Ash took a curve at 60. Trees blurred past. The truck's engine roared. They leaked my location, set up on your side of the lake. Why? To kill me. They said they wanted me alive, for leverage. Ash's hands went white on the wheel. The leather groaned under his grip. His jaw clenched. That changes things. Changes them how? Means they know you matter to me. He took another curve. The truck fishtailed. Gravel sprayed against the undercarriage. Means there will be more coming. More? How many more? They always send rookies first. Ash checked the rearview mirror. Nothing but darkness and trees. Test the defenses. See what they're up against. See what works. The real team comes after. Grace's stomach dropped. Her hands tightened on Wade. Those were rookies? Yes. You killed 12 men in 30 seconds. 12. His voice was flat. And there's a helicopter with reinforcements waiting at the mansion. We get there, we evacuate, we disappear until my security team tracks down whoever ordered the hit. Wade stirred in Grace's lap, groaned. One eye cracked open. Did I successfully deploy psychological warfare protocols? You were magnificent, Grace said. Her voice cracked. You used soap and gravity and canned goods. Good. Wade's eye fluttered closed again. Strategic. Environmental manipulation. Tell Mrs. Hanson I died defending premium salmon. You're not dying. Feels like dying. Everything hurts. Is this what CrossFit feels like? Ash glanced at Wade. Something flickered across his face. Almost a smile, then gone. Concussion. He'll be fine. How do you know? Because I'm not losing anyone else today. His eyes met hers. Gold flickered at the edges. Not you, not the penguin, not anyone. The mansion appeared through the trees. Dark, silent, waiting. Ash slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. Gravel sprayed. The engine ticked in the sudden silence. He exited the truck, came around to her side, took Wade from her arms so she could climb out. The Penguin's weight transferred to him. Wade didn't even wake. At the back of the mansion, the helicopter descended. The sound was deafening, rotors beating the air into submission. Wind whipped through the trees, leaves scattered. The downdraft pressed against Grace's skin like invisible hands. Landing lights blazed white. The helicopter touched down on the lawn. Grass flattened in waves spreading outward from the landing gear. The pilot kept the rotors spinning. Behind them, shadows moved. Not animals, too deliberate, too synchronized. Men, more mercenaries. They moved fast, blending in and out with the darkness between the trees. Professional, silent. The second wave. "Through the house to the back," Ash said to Grace. His voice cut through the helicopter noise. Then he raised it, projecting toward the mansion. "Hansons, come out! To the back! Now!" They entered the house quickly. Grace's shoes left bloody prints on the hardwood. She didn't know when she'd stepped in blood. What looked like a stone wall cracked open with a pneumatic hiss. A hidden door, seamless when closed. Mr. and Mrs. Hanson rushed out, Mira between them. The little girl's eyes were wide, terrified but holding it together. Ash tossed Wade to Mr. Hanson. The older man caught him with surprising agility. "Take Mira, Grace. Everyone to the helicopter. Run." He stayed back, gun raised, eyes on the front entrance, waiting for the second wave to breach. "What are you doing?" Grace asked, her heart hammered against her ribs. "Everyone to the helicopter, please." His voice was steady, final. "I'll leave when my backup arrives and holds the line." He didn't look like he wanted to negotiate. And she understood. Mira needed to get out. The Hansons needed to get out. She grabbed Mira's hand. Small fingers gripped hers tight. "Come on, sweetie. We're going for a helicopter ride." "Is Daddy coming?" Mira's voice was small, shaking. "He's right behind us." They ran. Through the mansion, down hallways Grace barely remembered from yesterday morning. Everything looked different in the dark, in the panic. Family photos blurred past. The smell of Mrs. Hanson's bread still hung in the air, wrong, normal things in an abnormal night. Mr. Hanson led the way. He knew this house, had worked here for decades. Mrs. Hanson brought up the rear, Wade cradled in her arms like precious cargo. The back door burst open. Wind hit them. Helicopter noise crashed over them like a physical force. Grace's hair whipped across her face. The pilot waved frantically. "Move! Move!" They had to cross a courtyard to reach the helicopter. Stone pavers, rose garden to the left, 50 feet that felt like miles. A small team of men jumped from the helicopter. 5 of them, black gear, armed, but moving with purpose, organized, not chaotic like the Mercenaries. Ash's security team. Relief washed over Grace. He had help. Things were going to be fine. "He's at the front!" Grace shouted over the rotor noise, pointing toward the mansion. The men charged past her without a word, moving as a unit. Professional. "Go, go!" Grace pushed Mr. and Mrs. Hanson forward toward the helicopter. She scooped up Mira. The little girl was light, trembling, and sprinted. The helicopter was close now, 20 feet. 10. At the corner of her eye, in the small side wall off the rose garden, 2 shadows vaulted over. Fast. Silent. She saw a flash in the dark. Didn't know what it was exactly, but every instinct screamed lethal. "Shoot her on the right!" Grace shouted. She twisted, covered Mira with her body, put herself between the child and whatever was coming. Something hit her. Not a bullet. Felt wrong. Magic. Dark magic. It punched into her shoulder like ice and fire at once. The impact spun her sideways. She kept her grip on Mira, went down hard on the stone pavers. Mira underneath her, protected. "Grace!" Mrs. Hanson's voice, distant, muffled. Grace tried to answer. Her mouth wouldn't work. Her arm was numb. Then burning, then nothing. Darkness crept in from the edges of her vision, black and cold and absolute. The last thing she heard was Mira crying. Then her world plunged into darkness. Chapter 7. Grace woke to the smell of antiseptic and something floral. Roses, maybe. Her shoulder burned. Her head felt stuffed with cotton. She tried to move. Pain shot down her arm. "Don't." A hand caught hers. Warm. Familiar. "You need to stay still." Grace's eyes focused slowly. White ceiling, white walls, machines beeping somewhere to her left. Hospital. Ash sat beside her bed, his hand wrapped around hers like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Stubble covered his jaw. His shirt was wrinkled, the same shirt from that night. How long had he been sitting there? "Mira," Grace croaked. Her throat felt like sandpaper. Safe, with the Hansons at a secure location. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. "You saved her, took the hit meant for her." Grace's memory flickered. The courtyard, the flash, covering Mira, then nothing. What hit me? Cursed magic, dark arts ammunition. His jaw tightened. Designed to incapacitate shifters. Put you in a coma for 3 days. 3 days? Grace tried to sit up. The room spun. Ash's hand pressed gently against her uninjured shoulder. "Easy. You're still healing." 3 days. Grace's brain fought through the fog. 3 days meant, what day is it? Saturday. No. The performance. Grace's heart hammered. My family's performance is tonight. Grace, what time? She grabbed his shirt with her good hand. What time is it now? 2 p.m., but you're not. I have to be there. She pushed against his hand, tried to swing her legs over the bed. They felt like they belonged to someone else. Weak, shaky, wrong. You can barely sit up. Ash's voice was gentle, devastated. Grace, you almost died. I don't care. Her vision blurred. From pain or tears, she couldn't tell. My sisters worked for months. This performance secures our theater's future. The investors are coming. If I don't show... Her voice cracked. They need me. They need you alive. Ash's hand cupped her face, made her look at him. Not dying on a stage because you pushed too hard. You don't understand. Tears spilled over. She couldn't stop them. I'm already the disappointment, the one who can't be elegant. Who's built wrong for ballet? If I fail them now, if I don't even try... Grace. His voice broke on her name. Listen to me, please. She met his eyes. Storm gray, rimmed with red. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Probably hadn't. I need to tell you something, Ash said. I needed to tell you days ago. Should have told you before everything went to hell. Ash, I was cruel to you. The words came out rough, raw. At the lake. I said things, terrible things, and I need you to know why. Grace's throat closed. She didn't want to hear this. Didn't want to relive, you're not Elena, you'll never be Elena. The moment I saw you, Ash continued, the first instant your kayak hit mine, and I went under, and you pulled me up. My wolf woke. Grace stared at him. It had been silent for 2 years. Dead. I told you that. I believed it. His hand trembled against her face. But the second I saw you, it woke. Not just woke, it recognized you. Before I even knew your name, before I understood what you were. My wolf knew, and it wanted to claim you. Ash, I was terrified. His voice cracked. Elena had been my choice, my decision. But you were my wolf's choice, my fate. And I didn't know what to do with that. Didn't know how to want someone again without feeling like I was betraying her memory. So I hurt you instead. Pushed you away, said the cruelest thing I could think of because I was a coward. Grace's tears fell faster. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I'm sorry. Ash pressed his forehead to hers. I'm so sorry, Grace. You didn't deserve that. You saved my life, saved my daughter, saved me from drowning in grief. And I repaid you by making you feel like you weren't enough. His breath hitched. When you are. God, Grace, you're everything. The machines beeped. Somewhere down the hall, a door opened and closed. The roses on the bedside table filled the air with their sweet, heavy scent. Grace lifted her good hand, touched his face. His skin was warm. Real. Here. I forgive you, she whispered. Ash's eyes closed. Relief broke across his face like sunrise. But if you ever call me not Elena again, Grace added, Wade will personally destroy you. He's been planning psychological warfare protocols. Ash laughed. It came out wet, broken, beautiful. Noted. The door burst open. "She's awake!" Wade announced, waddling in at top speed. His reading glasses sat askew on his beak. A small bandage wrapped around his head. I knew it. 73% probability of consciousness returning within 4-hour window. I'm never wrong about these things. You're always wrong about these things, Grace said. But she was smiling, crying and smiling, and her shoulder hurt, and none of it mattered because Wade was alive and ridiculous and here. Irrelevant. Wade hopped onto the bed, somehow avoided all the IV lines. What matters is this. You have a legitimate medical excuse for missing your performance. A doctor's note, possibly several doctor's notes. I can forge more if needed. Grace's smile faded. I'm not missing it. Grace, Ash started. No. She looked between them. My sisters have worked too hard. This performance determines our theater's financial future for years. The investors coming tonight could fund 3 seasons. My parents have spent decades building this company. I won't let them down. You almost died, Wade said. For once, his voice held no statistics, no jokes. Grace, you can't even stand. Then I'll perform sitting down. That's not how Swan Lake works. Then I'll figure something out. Grace tried to swing her legs over the bed again. The room tilted. Ash caught her before she fell. There has to be another way, Ash said. What if I bought the theater company? Grace went still in his arms. Not as charity, Ash added quickly. As an investment. Your sisters are talented. Your parents have built something remarkable. I could provide capital, secure the funding. You wouldn't have to perform injured. No. Grace pulled away from him, used her good arm to grip the bed rail, held herself upright through pure stubbornness. My parents are proud. They don't take handouts. And my sisters are talented enough to succeed on their own merit. They don't need a billionaire's pity. It's not pity. I'm going. Grace's voice came out steady, final. Help me or don't, but I'm going to that theater. Ash stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Not resignation. Understanding. Maybe even admiration. Okay, he said quietly. Okay, but I'm coming with you, and if you collapse, I'm carrying you out. Deal? Deal. Wade sighed. This is a terrible idea, but I respect the commitment to terrible ideas. Let me get your discharge papers. He waddled out, muttering about liability waivers and medical malpractice. Ash helped Grace to her feet. She swayed, his arm wrapped around her waist, holding her steady. You're sure about this? He asked. Grace looked up at him. I've spent my whole life being the wrong kind of swan. Too big, too strong, too everything my family didn't want. This performance, it's my last chance to prove I can be what they need. Grace. Ash's hand cupped her face. You're already everything they need. They just don't know it yet. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe she was enough exactly as she was. But first, she had to make it through tonight. The drive to the theater took 30 minutes. Grace spent most of it trying not to pass out. Every bump in the road sent pain shooting through her shoulder. The medication they'd given her helped, but not enough. Mira sat in the back seat, small hand holding Grace's good one. Are you really going to dance? I'm going to try, sweetie. Daddy says you're the bravest person he knows. Grace glanced at Ash. He kept his eyes on the road, but his jaw tightened. His hand found hers, squeezed once. Wade rode in Mira's lap, reading glasses perched on his beak. For the record, I'm documenting this for my memoir, Chapter 12, The Time My Client Made Terrible Life Choices and I Enabled Them. You're writing a memoir? Grace asked. I'm planning to write a memoir. The planning phase is critical. The theater appeared, Grace's childhood home, stone facade, ornate windows, the sterling name in gold letters above the entrance. Investors' cars lined the street, expensive ones, the kind that meant serious money was watching tonight. No pressure. Ash parked in the back, helped Grace out. Her legs shook. He caught her again. I've got you, he murmured. They went through the stage door. Backstage was chaos, Dancers warming up, stage crew checking lights, the smell of rosin and hairspray and nervous sweat. Grace's sisters saw her first. "Grace!" Lydia, the oldest, rushed over. Her white swan costume sparkled under the backstage lights. "Oh my God, where have you been? Mom and Dad have been calling. We didn't know if you'd—" She stopped, took in Grace's hospital bracelet, the way she leaned on Ash. "What happened?" "Long story." Grace forced a smile. "I'm here now. That's what matters." Her other 3 sisters crowded around, all in white swan costumes, all elegant and perfect and everything Grace wasn't. "You look terrible," Sophie said, always the blunt one. "Thanks. Can you dance?" Maya asked. Practical, worried. "I'm going to try." "Grace," Lydia started. "I'm going to try," Grace repeated, firmer this time. "Where's my costume?" They led her to the dressing room. Her black swan costume hung waiting. Silk and feathers and everything she'd spent months preparing for. Getting into it took 20 minutes. Her sisters helped. Gentle hands, worried faces. No one said what they were all thinking. You can't do this. But Grace had spent her whole life being told what she couldn't do. She was done listening. The costume fit perfectly. Black silk hugged her body. Black feathers cascaded down the skirt. In the mirror, she looked like what she was, a warrior swan trying to be elegant. "You look beautiful," Ash said from the doorway. Mira stood beside him, eyes wide. "Like a princess." "Like a queen," Ash corrected. His eyes held something Grace couldn't name. Pride, fear, love. Wade waddled in, straightening his reading glasses. "I've been observing your rehearsals for weeks. Months, actually. I know this choreography better than you do. If you need backup. Wade, you're a penguin." A penguin with an intimate understanding of classical ballet and modern interpretative dance. "Don't limit me with your species bias." Grace laughed. It hurt her shoulder. She didn't care. "Places," the stage manager's voice echoed. 5 minutes to curtain. White swans to stage left. Black swan, you're entering stage right. Grace's sisters filed out, one by one, perfect white swans heading to their positions. Grace stood in the wings, Ash beside her, Wade at her feet, Mira holding her good hand. Through the gap in the curtain, she could see the audience. Full house, investors in the front row, her parents in the third, pride and worry warring on their faces. "You don't have to do this," Ash said quietly. "Yes, I do." "Grace, trust me." She looked up at him. "Please, just trust me." Ash studied her face, then nodded. "Always." He released her hand. Grace took a step toward the stage. Her leg buckled. She caught herself on the wall. Sweat broke across her forehead. This was impossible. Her body wasn't whole. Her legs were wobbly. Every breath sent pain radiating through her shoulder. She couldn't do this. But which was worse? Going out and failing publicly? Or not showing up and watching the performance fail because of her absence? The orchestra began. Swan Lake's opening notes filled the theater. Beautiful, haunting. The music Grace had lived with her entire life. Her cue was coming. 20 bars, 15, 10. She couldn't move. Fear paralyzed her more completely than the cursed magic had. 5 bars. 3. Her cue. Grace stood frozen in the wings. A small shadow dashed past her, out onto the stage. Wade. The penguin glided into her formation, the exact position where Grace should be standing. He'd watched her practice so many times he knew every mark. The audience went silent, then gasped. Wade stood center stage, reading glasses catching the lights. Small, absurd, perfect. He spun, not a perfect pirouette, but close. Graceful in his own strange way. Then he paused, flicked his wing like clicking his fingers. The music changed. Not the classical Swan Lake everyone expected. The modern interpretation. The version all 5 Sterling sisters had dreamed of performing. The version their investors had rejected as too risky. Too different. Wade started dancing. Happy feet. Tap dancing penguin feet on the stage floor. Rhythmic, joyful, completely wrong and completely perfect. Grace's 4 sisters looked at each other from their positions. A moment of confusion. Then, understanding. Maya started first, broke from the classical formation, moved into the modern choreography they'd choreographed in secret, the dance they'd wanted to perform all along. Then Lydia joined, then Sophie, then Catherine. All 4 white swans dancing the dream version. The audience erupted. Not polite theater applause, explosion, volcano, pure unbridled joy. People rose to their feet. The sound crashed over the stage like a wave, like thunder, like everything beautiful and impossible happening at once. Grace stood in the wings, tears streaming down her face, watching her sisters dance the choreography they'd always wanted, watching Wade, ridiculous, self-proclaimed water sports psychologist Wade, make it possible. Ash's hand found her back, steady, supporting. "He's magnificent," Ash whispered. "He really is." On stage, Wade executed a flawless glide. His reading glasses stayed on through sheer determination. The sisters danced around him, incorporating him into the formation. White swans and 1 black penguin, creating something new, something revolutionary. The investors in the front row weren't just applauding. They were laughing, crying. One of them was filming on their phone. Grace's mother stood, hands pressed to her mouth, tears streaming. Her father's arm wrapped around her mother. He was crying too. In the front row, Mira jumped up and down. "That's Wade! That's our Wade!" The music built to crescendo. The sisters moved in perfect synchronization. Wade held his position, the dark center around which they orbited. The final note rang out. The dancers froze. Silence. 1 heartbeat, 2. Then the audience exploded again. Louder this time, standing ovation, flowers thrown onto the stage. One of the investors was on his feet shouting, "Bravo!" Wade bowed, low, formal. His reading glasses slipped. He caught them with 1 wing. Grace's sisters bowed, white costumes brilliant under the lights. The curtain came down. Grace's legs finally gave out. Ash caught her, lowered her gently to the floor. "I've got you." "Did you see—" Grace couldn't get the words out. "Did you see what he did?" "I saw. He saved us. Wade saved the whole performance." "He did." Wade waddled off stage, breathing hard, reading glasses askew. "I told you," he announced. "I told you I was a professional. No one believed me. But who just performed Swan Lake in front of investors? This penguin." Grace laughed. It came out as a sob. She reached for Wade, pulled him close. "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." "You're welcome. I accept payment in premium salmon and public acknowledgement of my genius." He paused. "Also, I'm keeping the costume. The feathers really bring out my eyes." Grace's sisters rushed backstage, all talking at once, crying, laughing, pulling Grace into a group hug that made her shoulders scream and her heart soar. "That was insane," Lydia said. "That was perfect," Maya corrected. "The investors loved it," Sophie added. "Did you see their faces?" "Mom and Dad are crying," Catherine said. "Happy crying, I think." Grace looked up at Ash. He was smiling. Not the polite smile he used in boardrooms. Real, soft, the smile that made him look years younger. "You did it," he said. "Wade did it." "You both did it." Grace's parents appeared. Her mother knelt, regardless of her expensive dress, took Grace's face in her hands. "My brilliant, stubborn, impossible daughter. What did you do to yourself?" "Long story." "You're not supposed to be here," her father said, but he was smiling. "The hospital called. Said you checked out against medical advice." "I had a performance." "You had Wade," her mother corrected. She looked at the penguin. "Thank you. I don't understand how or why, but thank you." Wade preened. "I'm available for future performances. My rate is negotiable, but my genius is not." The stage manager rushed over. "The investors want to meet backstage. They're talking about funding 3 seasons. Maybe more. They want to discuss a complete modernization of the repertoire. This is happening. This is actually happening." Grace's sisters started crying again. Happy tears, dream-coming-true tears. Grace leaned against Ash. Let him take her weight. let herself be held by someone who'd seen her at her worst and chose her anyway. "Take me home," she whispered. "Which home?" Grace looked up at him. "Yours." Something shifted in his expression. Storm gray eyes going soft, gold flickering at the edges. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Let's go home." They slipped out the stage door while her family celebrated. Mira held Grace's good hand. Wade waddled beside them, still wearing his borrowed feathers. In the car, Grace's adrenaline finally crashed. The pain returned, worse than before. She bit back a whimper. Ash's hand found hers. "Hospital first. No more hospitals. Grace, home. Please, just take me home." He studied her face, then nodded. "Okay, but if you pass out again, I'm overruling you." "Fair." Mira climbed into the back seat with Wade. Within minutes, they were both asleep, Mira's head on Wade's round belly. Wade's wing draped over her like a blanket. Grace watched them in the rearview mirror. A 6-year-old girl who'd lost her mother. A penguin with delusions of grandeur and a heart bigger than his tiny body. Both of them safe, both of them loved. "Thank you," Grace said quietly, "for coming back, for saving me." "You saved me first." Ash's thumb brushed across her knuckles. "At the lake, when you pulled me up. You saved me." "We're even then." "No." He glanced at her. "We're not even close to even. And I'm okay with that." The mansion appeared through the trees. Dark, quiet, safe. Home. Ash carried her inside. Grace didn't protest. Couldn't. Her body had given everything it had, and then some. He laid her on a couch in the library, the same room where he'd told her his wolf was dead, where she'd seen the truth in his eyes and hadn't known what to do with it. "Rest," Ash said. "I'll get the medical supplies. We need to change your bandage." "Ash?" He paused, looked back. "Your wolf," Grace said. "Is it still awake?" Gold flickered in his eyes. "Yes." "Good," she smiled. "I'd like to meet it sometime." "You already have." His voice went soft. "Every time I look at you, every time I think about you. It's awake, and it's yours." He left to get the supplies. Grace closed her eyes, let herself sink into the couch, let herself be safe, be cared for, be enough exactly as she was. Outside, the lake stretched silver under moonlight, the same lake where this had all started, where she'd run over a billionaire's kayak and saved a drowning man and met a little girl who needed her, where she'd found her mate. Grace's swan stirred inside her, content, complete. For the first time in her life, being a warrior swan felt like exactly what she was meant to be. Not too much, not too little, just right. Chapter 8. 6 months later. Grace broke the surface of the lake in her swan form for the first time in 7 months. The water streamed off black and gold feathers. Her wings stretched wide, powerful, graceful, exactly as they should be. The morning sun caught the gold, making her shimmer like something out of a fairy tale. On the shore, Ash stood with Mira. His wolf was close to the surface. She could see it in his eyes, the way gold flickered through storm gray. Not dormant, not silent, alive and watching his mate with something that looked like reverence. "Form is excellent," Wade announced from his position on a rock. He wore tiny reading glasses and held a clipboard he'd somehow acquired. Wing extension, 93% optimal. Neck curvature, perfect. Overall technique significantly improved from baseline measurements. Grace glided across the water, let herself feel it, the freedom, the rightness of being in her true form. No more suppression, no more pretending to be something smaller, quieter, less. She was a warrior swan, black and gold and fierce and beautiful, and she was done apologizing for it. "Can I try?" Mira called from the shore. The 6-year-old bounced on her toes, eager, unafraid. Ash's hand rested on his daughter's shoulder. "Remember what Grace taught you. Find your wolf first. Don't force it." Mira closed her eyes, her face scrunched in concentration. Then the shift rippled through her. Smooth, natural. A small gray wolf stood where the little girl had been. Bright eyes, fluffy tail wagging. "I did it!" Mira's voice came out as a happy yip. "Daddy, did you see? I did it!" Ash shifted. His wolf was larger, darker gray, alpha-sized, powerful, but gentle when he nuzzled his daughter. Proud. Grace shifted back to human form, waded to shore where she'd left clothes. The borrowed sweater from Elena was long gone, replaced by her own things. Things that fit, things that were hers. Ash shifted back as Mira played in the shallows, her wolf form splashing and chasing fish she'd never catch. "She's perfect," Grace said. "Because of you." Ash's arm wrapped around her waist, pulled her close. "You taught her control, confidence, how to be strong without being afraid of her own strength." "I taught her what my mother taught me." Grace leaned into him, let herself be held. "That being different isn't being broken." Wade waddled over, consulting his clipboard. "I've documented remarkable progress in the young wolf's development. Her shift time has decreased by 47%. Emotional regulation up by 62%. I'm writing a paper on my groundbreaking training methodology." "You watched her shift 3 times and told her she was doing great," Grace said. "That is my groundbreaking methodology, positive reinforcement combined with precise statistical analysis." Wade adjusted his glasses. "Also, I've been invited to guest lecture at the Sterling Dance Theater next month. Interdisciplinary performance art, a penguin's perspective. I'm expecting a full house." Grace smiled. The Sterling Dance Theater had exploded after that night 6 months ago. The investors hadn't just funded 3 seasons. They'd funded 5, with an option for more. Her sisters were touring with their modern interpretations. Her parents were fielding interview requests. The theater was thriving, and Grace taught there twice a week. Warrior Swan classes for dancers who didn't fit the traditional mold. For the girls who were too tall, too muscular, too much for classical ballet. She taught them that different was powerful. The classes filled up within hours of being posted. "We should head back," Ash said. "Mrs. Hanson is making her famous cinnamon rolls. If we're late, Wade will eat them all." "I heard that!" Wade shouted. "And it's a valid concern. Those cinnamon rolls are 98% perfection. I deserve compensation for my therapeutic services." They walked back to the mansion together. Mira, shifted back to human form and wrapped in a towel, held Grace's hand, skipped, hummed, acted like a normal 6-year-old instead of one carrying the weight of grief and early wolf emergence. The mansion had changed too. Less museum, more home. Toys in the living room. Mira's artwork on the refrigerator. Wade's office, a corner of the kitchen with a small desk and a nameplate that read, "Wade, water sport psychologist and creative consultant." Mrs. Hanson met them at the door. Perfect timing. Rolls are fresh from the oven. The smell hit Grace like a warm hug. Cinnamon and butter and home. Mr. Hanson was setting the table. He'd aged in reverse over the past 6 months. The worry lines around his eyes had softened. He smiled more, laughed at Wade's ridiculous statistics. They all sat down together. Family breakfast. The kind Grace had dreamed of as a kid, but never quite had. Too much pressure. Too many expectations. Everyone performing even at the breakfast table. This was different. This was real. "So," Mrs. Hanson said, passing the rolls, "have you 2 set a date yet?" Grace nearly choked on her orange juice. Ash's hand found hers under the table. Squeezed. They'd been dancing around the question for weeks. The mate bond was already there. Had been from the moment his wolf woke at the lake. But the ceremony, the official claiming, the public acknowledgement, that felt bigger, more permanent, more like admitting this was forever. "We're thinking next month," Ash said. His thumb brushed across Grace's knuckles. "Small ceremony. Just family." "Finally," Wade announced. "I've been preparing my best penguin speech for months. It's 43% heartfelt emotion and 57% statistical analysis of successful partnerships. You're going to cry." "I'm already crying," Mrs. Hanson said, dabbing at her eyes. "My boy, getting mated again. Elena would be so happy." The name didn't hurt anymore. Didn't feel like a ghost haunting the halls. Elena had been real, had been loved, had been Ash's first chance at happiness. But she was gone, and Grace was here. And Ash had chosen both, had loved Elena completely, and could love Grace completely too. Different loves, different women, both real, both valuable. "Can I be the flower girl?" Mira asked. Syrup dripped down her chin. "You're the only flower girl," Grace said. "Who else would I ask?" "And Wade can be the ring bearer," Mira continued, warming to the idea. "He needs a tiny tux with a bow tie." "I accept," Wade said immediately. "But I'm not wearing a clip-on. I have standards." Grace looked around the table, at the Hansons who'd become surrogate parents, at Mira, who called her Grace but looked at her like a mother, at Wade, who'd somehow become her best friend and biggest supporter, at Ash, whose wolf had woken for her and stayed awake, present, alive in a way he hadn't been in years. This was her pack, her family, her home. Not the one she was born into, though she loved her parents and sisters and always would, but the one she'd chosen, the one she'd fought for, the one she'd nearly died protecting. "Next month, then," Grace said. "At the lake?" Ash's eyes met hers. Gold flickered. "At the lake, where it all started." "Where you ran me over with your kayak and almost died," he added. "Where you insulted my coffee. Where you saved my life." "Where we found each other," Grace finished softly. Mira made gagging noises. "You're being mushy again." "I'm documenting this for my speech," Wade said, scribbling on his clipboard. 89% mush factor. The guests will love it." Mrs. Hanson passed more cinnamon rolls. Mr. Hanson told a story about young Ash learning to swim. Mira snuck bites to Wade when she thought no one was looking. Ash's hand stayed in Grace's, warm and solid and real. Outside, the lake stretched silver and perfect. The cabin across the water, Grace's old hiding place, was now their retreat. Fixed up, warm, a place to escape when the world got too loud. But the mansion was home. This table, this family, this life they'd built from the ruins of grief and loneliness and not fitting in. After breakfast, Ash pulled Grace aside, led her to the library, the same room where he'd told her his wolf was dead, where everything had been broken and impossible. Now it was just theirs, their space, their room. "I have something for you," Ash said. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Velvet, old, the kind that held family heirlooms. Grace's heart stopped. "It was my grandmother's," Ash said. He opened the box. A ring sat inside, delicate gold band, black pearl in the center, small diamonds around it. She was a warrior too, alpha female of her generation. Strong, fierce, everything you are. The ring was perfect. Black and gold, unusual, powerful. Like her. "Elena's ring is Mira's now," Ash continued. "For when she's older, when she finds her own mate. But this," he pulled the ring from the box, "this is yours, if you want it. Ash, I know we're already mated. I know the bond is there, but I want this too." His voice was steady, certain. "I want the human ceremony, the public claiming. I want everyone to know you're mine, and I'm yours, and this is forever." Grace couldn't speak. Tears blurred her vision. "Grace Sterling," Ash said. "Warrior Swan. Black sheep of your family. Woman who saved my life and my daughter's life and my soul. Will you marry me?" "Yes." The word came out choked. "Happy." "Yes. Obviously, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her. Ash pulled her close, kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise. His wolf pressed against her swan, two broken things that had found each other and become whole. "I love you," Ash murmured against her lips. "My fierce, impossible, perfect mate." "I love you too." Grace's hands fisted in his shirt. "My broken, healing, beautiful alpha." "I'm not broken anymore. Neither am I." They stood there, holding each other. Two people who'd thought they were done. Done with love, done with hope, done with being enough. Who'd found each other anyway. The door burst open. "Did she say yes?" Wade waddled in at top speed. Because I've already sent the save the dates, and if she said no, I'm going to look very unprofessional. You sent save the dates? Grace asked. I'm a planner. It's part of my psychological methodology. Wade peered at her hand. Excellent ring choice. Black pearl. Very thematic. Coordinates well with your spirit swan. I approve. Mira appeared behind Wade. Did you ask her? Is Grace going to be my mom? Ash looked at Grace. The question hung in the air. Grace knelt, eye level with Mira. I'll never replace your mother. Elena was your mom. She loved you so much, and she'll always be your mom. Mira's eyes filled with tears. But, Grace continued, if you want, I can be your mom too. Different, but still real, still forever. Mira threw herself into Grace's arms, small body shaking with sobs. I want that. I want you to stay forever. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. Grace held her tight. I promise. 97% emotional saturation, Wade announced. We've reached peak feelings. I need a moment to process. He waddled to the corner, dabbed at his eyes with his wing. Ash crouched beside Grace and Mira, wrapped his arms around both of them, his family, his pack, his reason for healing. Forever, he said quietly. All of us. Forever, Grace agreed. The ceremony happened 1 month later, exactly as planned. The lakeshore was decorated simply, white chairs, flowers, nothing too elaborate. Just family and close friends gathering to witness what had already happened in every way that mattered. Grace's family came, all of them. Her parents cried through the entire ceremony. Her sisters served as bridesmaids, wearing the modern dance costumes they'd designed, a blend of traditional and contemporary, just like Grace herself. Mira was indeed the flower girl. She took the job seriously, scattering petals with intense concentration. Wade was the ring bearer. He wore a custom-made tuxedo that Mrs. Hanson had sewn by hand, bow tie, tiny dress shoes on his webbed feet. He waddled down the aisle with enormous dignity, clipboard tucked under one wing. Dearly beloved, the officiant began. Grace barely heard the words. She was too busy looking at Ash, at the man who'd been drowning in grief and had let her pull him to the surface. Who'd saved her in return, who'd chosen her even when it scared him. His eyes were storm gray, gold flickered at the edges. His wolf, present and content. Her swan stirred. Content, too. The couple has prepared their own vows, the officiant said. Ash went first. Grace, you ran me over with a kayak. You made terrible coffee. You nearly died protecting my daughter. You taught me that loving someone new doesn't erase loving someone who's gone. You made me believe in second chances. His voice cracked. You made me believe in everything again. I love you, all of you. The warrior swan who doesn't fit the mold. The woman who's too much and too fierce and too perfect. I love you, and I'm yours, forever. Grace's turn. She'd written something eloquent, something poetic. It disappeared from her mind entirely. You told me I wasn't Elena and I never would be, Grace said. Ash flinched. You were right. I'm not her. I'm me. And somehow, that's enough for you. You see me, all of me, and you don't ask me to be smaller or quieter or less. You let me be exactly what I am, a warrior, a protector, a woman who will always choose action over elegance, and you love me anyway, maybe even because of it. She wiped at her eyes. I love you, and I'm yours, forever. I now pronounce you mated and bound, the officiant said. You may kiss. Ash was already kissing her, deep and claiming and full of promise. His wolf rose to meet her swan. The bond snapped into place, official now, recognized by pack and family and everyone who mattered. The small crowd erupted in applause. Wade stood on his chair. I told you they were compatible. 48% initial probability, increasing to 97% after sustained proximity and shared trauma. My methodology works. Sit down, Wade, Mrs. Hanson said, crying happy tears. I will not sit down. This is my moment. The reception was held in the mansion's backyard. Catered food, music, dancing. More joy than Grace had felt in her entire life. Her mother pulled her aside. "I'm sorry." Grace blinked. "For what?" "For not seeing you. For trying to make you fit a mold you were never meant for." Her mother's hands cupped Grace's face. "You were always extraordinary. I just couldn't see it through my own expectations. Can you forgive me?" "There's nothing to forgive." Grace hugged her mother. "I found my way. I found where I belong." "With a billionaire alpha and a penguin with a clipboard?" "Exactly." Her mother laughed. "Then I'm happy for you, truly." The evening faded into night. Stars came out. The lake reflected them like a mirror. Grace and Ash snuck away from the party, walked to the edge of the water, the same spot where she'd pulled him from the lake 6 months ago, where everything had started. "No regrets?" Ash asked. "About running you over?" "Several regrets. You were very heavy to drag to shore." "I meant about this. Us. Forever." Grace looked up at him, at her mate, her husband, her alpha. "Not even one." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "Because I'm not letting you go. Ever. Possessive alpha. Fierce warrior swan." They stood there, holding each other, two broken people who'd become whole by finding each other. Behind them, the party continued. Wade's voice carried across the lawn. "As I was saying in my speech, we should go back," Grace said, "before Wade convinces everyone he's responsible for our entire relationship." "He kind of is. He kept telling me you were my mate when I was being an idiot." "True. We should probably give him premium salmon for life." Already arranged. They walked back to the party hand in hand, to their family, their pack, their home. Mira ran up, grabbed both their hands. "Come dance! Wade's doing the penguin shuffle and it's hilarious!" They danced, all three of them, and the Hansons joined, and Grace's sisters. And soon the entire wedding party was learning Wade's therapeutic movement patterns, which were just penguin dancing with fancy names. Grace laughed until her sides hurt, spun Mira around until the little girl shrieked with joy, let Ash pull her close and hold her, like she might disappear. But she wasn't disappearing, wasn't running, wasn't hiding in a frozen cabin trying to be less than she was. She was here. Home. Exactly where she belonged. A warrior swan who'd found her alpha. A woman who'd found her family. A black sheep who'd realized that being different was the best thing that ever happened to her. The night stretched on, perfect, complete, the beginning of forever. And somewhere on the lake, a black swan glided across silver water. And that's where we leave Grace, Ash, Mira, and Wade. A found family built from broken pieces, kayak collisions, and one very determined penguin with a clipboard. If you love this story, hit that like button right now. Seriously. Your likes tell YouTube to share this with more readers who need warm-hearted shifter romance in their lives. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was your favorite Wade moment? I know you have one. Do you want more stories from the Thornwood pack? Should I write about Grace's sisters finding their mates? I read every single comment. Your ideas inspire the next stories. Your engagement keeps this channel going. Share this video with someone who needs a good cry, a great laugh, and a reminder that being the wrong kind of anything might just make you perfect for someone. And don't forget, there's an exclusive bonus chapter featuring Grace and Ash's honeymoon that you can only get by joining the newsletter. Wade interrupts. It's chaos. It's beautiful. Link is in the description and pinned in the first comment. Want more shifter romances with heart, humor, and happily ever afters that make you believe in second chances? Subscribe and hit that notification bell. New stories drop every schedule, weekly, bi-weekly. This is DN Leo reminding you that sometimes the best love stories start with a collision. Sometimes the best families are the ones you choose. And sometimes the best relationship advice comes from a penguin who definitely made up his credentials. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for letting me tell you stories. Until next time, stay wild, stay fierce, and remember, you're not too much. You're exactly enough.